Like this particular consciousness that is doing this here is purely and simply a vampiric consciousness. It doesn't have a central core energy to feed itself. It has to take from others. It doesn't naturally understand what giving is. It has to take from other beings. That's how it works. So this false reality that's manifested and created here is done by embedding images and sounds and ideas into children's minds, and then you grow up having and thinking that, you know, also textbooks, you know, like we were saying with children's textbooks, you're given what the fundamental ideas of what we're told history is and how we're told the world is, and then that is then put to the conscious mind, and then so we believe it to be, so then we manifest a false reality. So we're living out a reality that really wouldn't be isn't our natural state.
The heart is the most resilient point. The heart is the most resilient part of the human being. It's the heart that they have the most trouble with, because it's directly connected to divine source. And what this particular consciousness, vampiric parasitic consciousness, is trying to do is take over control of everything away from God's source itself. So God's source, it stems back from the war that was going on in Atlantis between the priests, the priesthood, and the scientists. The priests believed that we can create from within the heart. The scientists want to take control and build externally. So it's transhumanistic. It's technology. So they want to take over using technology and turn human beings into transhuman beings, so to disconnect us from the heart completely, and that way then they can finally take control of this planet, link it up to all the other prison planets, and then have a one whole prison system. And somebody asked me on a radio show the other day, well, why betrayal? Why is betrayal so important to the story? Well, betrayal is the ultimate way to hurt the heart. If you put your faith and love in somebody and then they betray you, it's like this to the heart. That's why betrayal is, part of the story. I'm not sure how much anybody understands about the moon, or if they know that it's an unnatural satellite, that it's not a moon like in the same way other planets have moons. It was placed there, and it is a soul harvesting unit. It's used to at the point of death. So they say walk to the light. If I was you, I would take the other direction. But so then when you go there, there is highly advanced technology there, which then harvests the energy from the soul and the trauma and the sadness of the death of a loved one. It then takes that, wipes the memory from the person, and then at the point that it's necessary, recycles the body or the soul back into another body on Earth again. So it's a continual loop. That's what the Ouroboros is. That's the snake swallowing its own tail. It's an infinite. So essentially, human beings on this planet have got caught in a time loop, and there is once again an opening to leave. If you want to take over a planet, if you want to completely take over a planet, the first thing that you have to do is you have to take out the alpha males or the strong males from the planet, because the strong alpha males protect the divine feminine. So there has been a concerted effort, which is now increasing and increasing and increasing, to emasculate the strong men on the planet. A prime example would be Jenner. What's his first name? The athlete Jenner. Bruce Jenner. They wanted to, in your face, show you how they could take an Olympic athlete and turn him into a woman, so that they could show you, look how powerful we are. Okay. And you can see through television and films how they are feminizing men more and more and more. You'll see men dressed up in female clothes, or men dressed up in dresses, or in perhaps in sitcoms or in television TV shows. You'll see the male more and more emasculated, and the female playing the dominant role. This is not to empower the female in any way. This is a trick to make it look like that it's empowering the female, when in fact it is taking away the protection from the female. The feminism movement that happened in the 60s was to destroy the family unit from the inside out. And I'm not saying this in any way that a woman shouldn't be independent and do whatever. I'm saying there is an agenda behind what is going on.
Let's just for a moment suspend where the source of these things are from. And let's just say that, let's say you go to the local zoo, and you go to the local zoo to visit the gorilla, the great ape exhibit. And week after week, you go to the gorilla exhibit, and the silverbacks are sitting down eating their bananas and pruning each other, and they look really cute. And one day you go to the zoo, and it appears that a key has fallen from the zookeeper's ring on their belt. And one of the gorillas is looking at it and kind of putting it in his mouth and feeling it. Well, the next week you go back to the same zoo and back to the same exhibit, and that same gorilla now is sitting a little bit closer to the enclosure gate. And he's got the key, and he's beginning to play with the key. Now, the monkey hasn't yet figured out how to get out of the cage, but it's a matter of time before that gorilla does. And the day you go to the zoo and that gorilla is no longer in the enclosure, you better hold on to little Johnny's hand, because now you've got an 800-pound gorilla on the loose, and the gorilla, that cute little gorilla, can all of a sudden turn violent. And so maybe we're dealing with something very similar. Perhaps we are the monkey. Maybe we are the species that has been relegated to its cage for millennia, and we're now at the point, technologically speaking, where we're beginning to discover ourselves and discover technology that allows us to get out of the cage. So after years and years of observing us, now this relatively violent species called the human race is about to have free reign over the entire zoo. Now that's a problem, right? Because we're not necessarily a peaceful species. What happens when that monkey now learns how to get out of its cage and shows up on your front lawn with a 12-gauge shotgun shooting, right? That's a problem. So anyways, it's just one analogy that may help resonate how I feel. It's possible that we are the silverback, and we're being monitored and observed to see our technological advancements, and how we progress, and are we ready to be good neighbors or not.
There's one such book by Charles Fort, F-O-R-T. It's called The Book of the Damned. The Damned, D-A-M-N-E-D. What we're about to become. Anyway, it's called The Book of the Damned. And in chapter 12, he says something incredibly profound. He says, I think we are property.
These recoveries have been the result of the summoning of these craft, and that's the word that was relayed to me, the summoning of these craft. So, if you're summoning stuff, what does that even mean? You're talking about a phenomenon that exists in the spiritual realm. I mean, that's more like a seance than a science expedition, right?
You were contacted by members of the Department of Defense.
Correct.
Can you walk?
They explained to me what was going on, the project with which they were involved, and their concerns that it was not only unethical and immoral, but that it was a program that was really connected with the demonic.
It's often been mocked that there is this Collins elite, so-called, inside the Pentagon, who warn, as evangelical Christians, that whatever this is something evil, and they use the words demonic. And I've had conversations with people in the US Air Force where they say, look, this is evil. We know we can't go there because it's bad, it's evil, it's demonic. And I'm saying, I had an argument with one guy quite senior in the US Air Force where I said to him, you're letting your Christian ideas intrude on a scientific understanding of a phenomenon. And he said, Ross, I know this is demonic. We shouldn't be having anything to do with it. How do I know they're wrong? And I don't think it's a coincidence that the Vatican Church almost certainly knows about the phenomenon and has been recording it and observing it for, I suspect, possibly even 1,000 years. But there's a cover-up, and there's a colluded cover-up. I mean, the Vatican was involved, allegedly, according to David Grush, in the retrieval of the Magenta craft that was passed through the OSS to the US Air Force in 1944. So you've got religious institutions involved in this cover-up. Why? And I guess there is one worry, one data point that does worry me. David Grush did talk about agreements. And he wouldn't go into a lot of detail when I pushed him on it really hard in my interview with him. And I'm the only one that's ever had the opportunity to ask him about it. Because I noticed in his DOPSA, he was authorised to talk about agreements. And so I pushed him really hard on it, much more so than he probably wanted to be. And it's clear, the implication to me is that if what David's saying is correct, there are sections of the US government that have concluded agreements of some kind with non-human intelligence, which is mind-blowing if true. If true. And the implication of that is it part of those agreements, do you think?
For the secrecy. For
the secrecy. If we did make agreements, who did we make agreements with?
Yeah.
And are they the good guys? One hint I got was that we made agreements, or that sections of the US government, particularly the US Air Force, unilaterally and without any congressional approval, which is normally meant to happen when you make international agreements, they secured an agreement with allegedly a non-human intelligence that might not be friendly.
I've had an experience where I had a very senior person in the US government told me flat out, Lou, we want you to stop this program. And my response was, well, okay, sir, I can understand that, but can you give me the reason why? Because from our perspective, these things are absolutely real. We are seeing these, we're recording them, we've got the date on them. And the response back to me was, Lou, we're not arguing that they're real. We know they're real, but we don't think you know what they really are. And so at that point, I'm thinking, oh, maybe this is some sort of secret US kind of program that they didn't read me onto, which I'm fine with. And I said, well, okay, sir, that's fine. And his response back to me was, what you're dealing with are demonic beings.
Grush has written an internal document about his discoveries that refers to agreements that risk putting our future in jeopardy.
And it's quite clear that you're talking about agreements between America and non-human intelligences.
There's certainly, a relationship that was cultivated with non-human intelligences, hypothetically, I guess, to play off of what you just said. Good or bad, it's almost like we were afraid after 9/11. Dirty bombs, terrorists. Okay, well, that's nature. That's life. Yin and yang of the universe. If there's malevolent non-human intelligences, okay, well, that's a fact of life. Don't hide it. Because what if the US populace needs to be prepared for something someday?
Well,
hypothetically.
This man
said that he was in a Black Ops unit that was controlled by the Yanks. That's what he said. And he said that when he volunteered for this in the 1980s, he didn't know what he was getting himself into. He said that we didn't know what we were volunteering for. But once we'd volunteered, we had no choice but to stick with it. You're in for life. Now, he also said that he witnessed all kinds of things in and around the craft. He said that he actually witnessed an ET on more than one occasion, and he said it's nothing like you would see in films with big eyes and smiley faces. And I said, well, what did this being look like? And he said it looked like a devil. And he also said that they would rip you apart. That was what he said. And he said that he did get a view of inside this particular landed UFO, and he said that there was all kinds in there, and he implied that there was human body parts in there.
Or you are shown wreckage of egg-shaped craft, discs, avocado-shaped craft, and bodies inside them that are clearly not human. And mixed in with that are human body parts. What are you going to do?
So you've heard that allegation?
Oh, there are many stories about that within the special ops community.
We have to be able to accept an answer that might be uncomfortable for us. It might not be an intent thing at all. It might be motivation, but motivation and intent can be two different things, right? So for example, when a shark is hungry, its motivation is to eat, so it goes ahead and bites a surfer. Its intent isn't to inflict harm or cause pain to a surfer. The shark's hungry. It just thinks it's a seal. I'm going to eat the seal. I'm hungry.
It's just like humans, right? Humans are generally kind, but we also kill animals for food. And like, if you were a cow, you'd be like, these evil humans are going to chomp me up and like, you know, eat me. So but we're not actually malevolent as a whole, but some lower sentient species would see us as malevolent.
Are we prepared to recognize that we're not at the top of the food chain, potentially? That we're not the alpha predator, that we are maybe somewhere in the middle?
If many people knew what I know about it, from my study of it over now over many years, they might be very alarmed. We have many cases on record of cattle being taken. I'm glad to think that some of them like beef. There might be other forms of protein that they might be after, which would be rather more alarming.
No, I'm talking here about malevolence. I'm talking here about deliberately targeted attacks by, alleged non-human intelligences that weren't accidental. That they were deliberate acts of murder, killing, and mutilation.
If the general public knew or saw what you saw, what would the next week look like? How would the public react?
Somber.
Somber, like a sigh of relief?
Somber meaning serious. Not like Hollywood portrays people partying in the streets and silliness with that.
The common interpretation from some commentators is that there is a non-human species and it's incredibly benevolently well disposed to the human race.
Yeah, and I think that is the logical fallacy there is because they're advanced, they're kind. We'll never really understand full intent in that because we're not them, whatever them is or are. But I think what appears to be malevolent activity has happened.
Have human beings been hurt or killed by a non-human intelligence?
While I can't get into the specifics because that would reveal certain U.S. classified operations, I was briefed by a few individuals on the program that there were malevolent events like that.
No, I'm scared. I don't want to unnecessarily alarm people, but no, there are aspects of the phenomenon that I find quite alarming and scary that I've been told about. I don't want to speak publicly about them because I haven't been able to confirm them. Sure. But it involves bad things being done to human beings.
There's no. My own view is that these are not aliens. There's no evidence that they've come from somewhere else. We would probably know. We've got a lot of technology that's watching what comes in and out of the atmosphere, and there's no evidence of that. I think they've been here forever. This is my view. Again, it can't be proven, but I'm just telling you after a lot of conversations, I think it's likely that the U.S. government has had contact with these, direct contact, and over a period of years. I find that really disturbing, because and a bunch of other things that are highly distressing that I can't prove, and so I'm not going to throw them out there. And my view is that this is my opinion, that there are things about this that are really disturbing. And while I hate any kind of government secrecy, and if I could prove any of this, I would say it immediately, consequences be damned, I do sort of understand why they don't want to let this stuff out. It's not about, oh, we've got fragments of one of these crafts at a Lockheed, facility in California, and we have biologics from the craft. Everyone knows that that's likely true. Well, it's certainly true that they have the, pieces of this stuff. Yep. But I think it's likely that it's darker than that, and that the U.S. government is, I say the U.S. government, people in the U.S. government, not the U.S. government, but there are it's the largest human organization in history. Parts of it, have knowledge that is very, very disturbing. And I personally strongly think, that there's a spiritual component to this that I don't understand and will not pretend to understand. But I think it's very clear that there's a spiritual component to this. That's one of the reasons the Vatican, and I'm not Catholic, but has been involved in this for over 100 years, has an observatory, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's pretty obvious that these are not men from Mars. I think that was a psyop, because I think the truth is a little bit wilder.
First time in history of the phenomenon that we have first-hand eyewitness testimony of direct communication with a captured alien in custody.
This is James Fox, and he is the UFO documentarian. This is the man behind some of the most groundbreaking UFO films ever made, and he is here to pull back the curtain on cases that shake even seasoned investigators. If you are a UFO skeptic, I'm telling you, this is the episode for you. From 1996, the Virginia incident, when the entire town saw a craft crash and military officials were literally talking to each other like, there might be aliens out here, to never before heard audio from witnesses, surgeons, and insiders who claimed that they actually handled the beings themselves.
If I got my hands on the definitive piece of footage, I'd have something to worry about, no question.
When you say the definitive piece of footage?
Footage of a captured alien.
And that exists?
Oh, no question.
And you've spoken to people that have seen it?
Yes, multiple people.
We will explore James's very own UFO encounter, his method for separating truth from noise, and why high-level figures from Jimmy Carter to President Gerald Ford privately admitted you might be onto something. We're talking about Spielberg cameos, astronauts hinting at hidden contact, Bob Lazar's lingering questions, nuclear-era sightings, and what disclosure might actually look like and when it might happen. James Fox has spent decades getting the stories that nobody else can. He's probably talked to more UFO experiencers than anyone on Earth, and today he's sharing all of them with us. So sit back, relax, and welcome to camp. James Fox, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for joining me in my tent.
I like it.
Yeah, this is
it's a warm tent.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Deep in the,
as far as tents go.
Yeah, in the Adirondacks, we're far, far away from civilization. Not in Brooklyn at all. No. We are far.
This is literally going to be intense.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a really big fan. I've been tracking you for a while, and I've spoken to many people that have spoken about you. And as I said before, everyone speaks very highly of you. And your work, I think, has
That's
been...
because I owe them a lot of money.
Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah. Give it enough time.
Wait till they get paid.
Yeah. And then the tune will change a little. But no, I'm a really big fan, and I think the way that you tell stories around this topic is probably the most effective, I think, in sort of like the whole UAP disclosure community. Just the way that you sort of break down information and sort of, kind of paint the narrative, I think is really easy for lay people, like myself that are not, reading secret leaked memos and stuff, just to be able to get up to speed on everything. And you've done a bunch of documentaries that have kind of highlighted different aspects of, I guess, of the phenomena. And the one that's coming out, when is it coming out?
December 22nd.
Amazing.
Yeah.
This is about a kind of a follow-up to this incident in Brazil.
Yes, they call it the Roswell of Brazil.
The Roswell of Brazil. This is one of the more, I don't know, it's very interesting, and there's so much information around it, but it feels more real in a sense. Like the amount of eyewitness testimony and the way people describe the incident feels like, I don't know, sometimes you hear about stuff in America and it's like, okay, there's one memo or there's like a line, but this is a whole community that basically was involved in this event. And you're going to have to help me with the pronunciation, the Varginha incident. Can you explain more or less what this is and how this came across your radar and what made you interested in it in the first place?
Absolutely. So let's start off by saying I don't expect your audience to believe anything I'm about to tell you. Because if I were you, I wouldn't.
Fair.
Okay? Having said that, I was making my second UFO documentary in the late 90s. It ended up being called Out of the Blue. I never have a title for my films when I start. The title comes to you at some point.
Yeah.
You'll know when it's like the right thing. And what I do at the beginning of every film project, I don't do like big, intricate proposals or like, whole multi-pages. I do broad strokes. It's like, okay, usually on a chalkboard, it's like, all right, let's look at this case. Let's check out the Bentwaters case, Phoenix Lights, 1997. I kind of map it out that way. And then we just target those particular cases, and then we stitch it together at the end. And we're going through the various ideas, and I was working with this guy who's British. He was a former BBC correspondent. His name was Tim Coleman. A lot of respect, super intelligent, diligent researcher. And he's like, oh, mate, I think we should do this case in Brazil. These fucking live aliens walking around and da-da-da. And I just thought to myself, oh my God, this guy's crazy. Like, I think I picked the wrong partner. I really did. And not only did I not look into it, when I was making my second UFO documentary, I refused to even read one thing about it.
And
like
why? It just
because I was like,
outlandish?
this is impossible. It's impossible. There's no way a fucking UFO can crash and live aliens be walking around the town and the whole world not know about it.
Right.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to waste 1 second on garbage. Like, that's literally what my position was. And fast forward probably, and I refused to look into it. And I said, Tim, that's the worst idea ever. I'm not touching that thing with a 50-foot cattle prod. Forget it. And he was really pissed off at me at the time. Like, he took it a little personally. So fast forward, like, probably at least 10 years, I'm saying. And I'm going to Brazil. I get invited to Brazil on a film I did. I Know What I Saw. It was a 2-hour History Channel special. And a buddy of mine, Jeff Sagansky, was very high up in the entertainment industry. He's been very instrumental behind the scenes of, like, helping me promote my work, but without his face on it, like, very quietly behind. And there was reasons for that. But he goes, oh, James, you're going to Brazil. Oh, my God, you got to look into the Virginia case. And I was like, oh, my God, not this case again. This again. I was like, but I had a lot of respect for him, and he did a lot of amazing stuff for me behind the scenes. So I lied to him, and I said, Jeff, yeah, when I get there, I'll look into it for you, and I'll report back. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, click. Yeah, I'm not going to waste 1 second on that case. Then I arrived in Brazil, and I just happened to be in this place called Peruíbe, which is like, apparently there's like this island right off the coast that you can see it, and there's like this really poisonous snake that its venom is worth a lot of money, but they'll, like, poachers will go, and it's off, it's not allowed, and no one's allowed on that island, but you can see it from the shore. And I'm sitting there, and Stanton Friedman, the nuclear physicist, the guy that pretty much put Roswell on the map, along with a couple of other people, talking with Stanton, and we're commenting on this, like, poisonous snake, and some of the locals are like, yeah, some poachers go out there, and then the snakes drop out of the trees, and there's a bunch of dead poachers, and we're just like, oh my God. And then it was like, someone's like, well, you know, there was a guy, a military officer, who allegedly handled the alien here in Virginia, who also died of some sort of bacterial thing. And I was like, oh my God, here was this case again, right? And Stanton, and I was like, come on, Stanton. Stanton's like, you don't know about this case? And I was like, well, yeah, I know about it, but come on, like that. And he goes, not so fast, James. And I had a lot of respect for this. He's a nuclear physicist. He's a really smart researcher. He just so happened to be in the area when it happened in Brazil, and he met a bunch of the witnesses at the time. And he goes, don't dismiss this case. You should look into it. And that was a turning point for me. It's like, okay, I know I'm going to debunk it. I know it's going to turn out to be a bunch of hogwash, but I'll look into it. Okay, finally, after 12, whatever it was, I said, okay, I'll look into it.
And then Stanton just happened to be there?
He was invited as well. He was invited as well to this event.
I see.
Yeah, and so, yeah, sorry, I meant to mention that. Yeah, we're as panelists on this one event.
I see, but he was there during Virginia.
He was in the area either like months after or like, yeah, but he met a bunch of the witnesses.
I see.
Like he was there. He's like, oh yeah. He goes, I think this is going to be the Roswell of Brazil. It was like a lot because so many people saw something,
right?
Like military activity, the creatures, the UFO in distress. Like, I mean, it was like a lot of people had a little piece of the puzzle, or like, oh, my cousin was involved, or my mom saw this, or I had people working at the hospital that night. Like, holy shit, something went down.
Mm-hmm.
So I started looking into it, and the more I looked into it, I was like, shit, this might have happened, right? And so, probably 2 or 3 years into it, I got an interview with this military general, Brazilian military general. I was with my buddy Marco Leal, who's French. He's like, we're like partners, and we get this interview with Jose Carlos Pereira, and he's a Brazilian general, Air Force general, and he's like, before the interview, he's like, hey, you know, we could talk about this, we could talk about Claris, we could talk about 1986 UFOs in Brazil. You mentioned Virginia, and this interview's done, and I'm walking out of here. It's like, what? So I was like, that's weird.
Yeah.
Why would he do that? So we do the interview, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, when the cameras stop, I'm gonna really pin this guy down, you know? And so we do the interview, and he talks about all the things he's gonna talk about, and at the end, the cameras shut down, and Marco was right there with me, and I was like, looked him in the eyes, and I said, come on, please, General, please, what's going on? Like, why don't you want to talk about this case? Like, did it happen? He's getting his affairs together because he's got a driver waiting for him. Excuse me. And he's like, gets his briefcase and he's getting his stuff together and he's clearly like getting prepared to leave. And we're following him back, and I often describe it as like I was almost licking the dirt off his boots. Like I was begging him just for something. I said, I swear on my life, there are no cameras rolling, there's no audio rolling. This is between the three of us, me, Marco, and you. Tell me, please, about Virginia, please. He gets in the car, sits down, the engine's running, doors open. Marco and I are standing right there, and he looks up at us and he goes, it happened. Click. Marco and I looked at each other like, like to have that level of confirmation, and why would he make that up?
Yeah.
So that doesn't go in a movie, right? Because that's irrelevant. Everyone would say, well, it's third party, of course. But for me and for Marco, that was like, okay, let's rock.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
You know?
You got military confirmation, you got nuclear physicists that are like,
Yeah, they're like, look into it.
Close friends being like,
Yes.
check it out.
Yeah.
So all of this is culminating to
Yes.
you being like, okay.
Yeah, I'm really starting to go, shit.
And you're telling this general, you're like, I'll never tell anyone. I'm not going to go on a podcast
He
to
died.
share this information.
He died. He died. He died.
And
That's
so
why,
now
that's
we can
why I share it. Yeah. Yeah, he died. Bless his heart.
Right.
Yeah.
And his demeanor during this interview was pretty...
Oh, he was like, UFOs are real, like this event happened, and this event happened, and da-da-da, and the reason why we can't say is because, you know, you can't have objects of unknown origin whizzing around with impunity.
Right.
And for us to come forward and acknowledge that, it's going to scare the shit out of people.
Right.
Like, and to be able to say, like, yeah, they're here, but we don't know origins and intent. You know what I mean? And they fly rings around our fastest jets. Because no governing body is going to want to report that to the citizens. Are you kidding me?
Right.
You guys pay us to protect you. And we can't, shall they turn to be hostile? We have no visible means of defense against them. You think we're going to disclose that nature of information? Guess what he said to me? He goes, hell no. No, we don't do that.
Interesting.
Why would you do that? How are we going to benefit by doing that?
Right.
Because you reveal what you know, and in doing so, you have to reveal all things that you don't know.
Yeah, you basically just kind of admit, you know, like, hey, we are not able to...
We're not in control.
We're not in control. Yeah, and that's a big issue for a government.
Very big issue.
Yeah, you have rebellion, and yeah that's going to... Just in terms of statecraft, that is a terrible admission.
And it makes perfectly good sense, because I remember one time, I used to always say, and I still do in some respects, because I believe it, but I understand a little more. I hate to say it, but there are certain national security issues regarding this topic that does merit some levels of secrecy. And I can give you examples of that, but I had this general I was interviewing one time, and I was like, God, we're really unifying, and the world bring people together, and there's this outside, you know, and he's just like chuckling to himself, like, you're so naive, kid, like you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Let me break it down for you. And then he kind of explained it to me, and I was like, shit, I never looked at it that way before.
Yeah, I can kind of understand both sides in a way.
Yeah,
right?
and I don't agree with it, but I understand.
Right.
it. And especially if you start talking about crash retrievals. Just imagine, whether you believe it or you don't believe it, just imagine for a moment it is true that we have this technology. Well, anyone will tell you the technology observed in the sky from these things exhibits something that's like so far beyond anything that we have or have had or going to have. Like, they can hover, they can accelerate out of sight in the blink of an eye, right angle turns at high speed, like they go through the water, they go, no wings, no air disturbance, no visible propulsion. How do these things fly?
Yeah.
Could you put a bomb on that? You could harness that technology? Well, that's how they think, militarize this technology. And if we have it, we want to make sure we figure it out before the Chinese or the Russians.
Right.
Right?
I can understand the national security concern, right? Like War of the Worlds, this radio broadcast that went off in like the 50s, I think.
30s, 38.
Oh,
or
it was even
39,
earlier.
Yeah.
So this is basically
Orson Welles, hella funny.
Yeah, and
people were jumping out of their windows.
This is a great example, right?
Yeah.
You're doing this, what is it, like a radio soap opera kind of thing, and it's a fictionalized alien invasion, but they only disclosed that it was fictional at the very beginning, so people are tuning in.
And they missed it
5 minutes in.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, we have our ground reporter, and he's witnessing these lights in the sky, and this craft is landing in Times Square, and it's this whole thing, and people are in panic, rightly so.
Totally.
And
brilliantly done. I mean, it was really, really compelling.
Right.
Like if you listen to it now, like a lot of thought went into that. I mean, it sounded real.
And the reaction was equally as real. And I could understand that if this stuff was disclosed to a population, people would be really freaked out. So I understand this push for disclosure, but like any type of, classified, government document, I don't know, from a state level, you have to think, like, does the public benefit from knowing all of this, right? Like the JFK files or the Epstein files or whatever else it is. It's like, look, every empire does things that are, morally questionable. Do you guys really want to know everything? Do you really want to know what kind of backdoor deal we're doing with some dictator in order to get oil rights or something like that? It's like, basically they're saying it's better if you don't know. And of course, I understand the disagreement on this, but
Jacques Vallée said that something really interesting to me years ago. Because I was like, because I'm really curious by nature. I'm just a curious person. I want to get to the bottom of things, right? Tenacious. I have a lot of deficiencies, but curiosity is not one of them. I just really want to know. And I was like, Jacques, like, why the secrecy? Like, And he goes, James, think of it this way. Think about it like it's more of a question No, less of a question of what we know is more of a question of what we don't know.
Hmm.
And it really, struck a chord with me. It's like, oh, we can admit what we know, but that's going to open up all these other... Could you imagine, if they stood up and said what they know?
Right.
And then all of a sudden there's going to be 100 million questions flooding in from around the world because, the American government, sure, America represents a very small percentage of the world population, but the implications are global.
Yeah.
So it's it affects every religion, ontological shock, to the max.
Right.
And then America's going to start making statements that we have this stuff, it's real, we're not alone. Well, you better cough up some evidence, right? So what are they going to do? Are they going to give us the technology? Are they going to show us the bodies? How are they going to do it? Are they going to say, well, here, we're going to give you some photographs of some recovered craft? And then they're going to say, well, that's AI. We don't believe that. We need to see it. And then it's implications are global, so do we bring a whole panel of international scientists to come examine it in a lab and confirm, yeah, I saw it, and it's real, and Americans do have it? Or do they bring out a body? How do they do it? And how do they do it without having to cough up the goods?
Right.
Because they're not going to share that technology with China or Russia.
Of course.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And I always remember talking to military folks, intel folks, they're like, James, it's never going to happen. We might confess that we're not alone, but then how do they prove that without coughing up the goods? It's a really complicated situation. It's way more complex than I ever imagined. You can't just get the President of the United States, which half the country hates, right? No matter who it is. And so he's going to get up and say, hey, my fellow Americans, it has been brought to my attention that, we're not alone, whatever, right? However he says it. All right, well, where's the proof?
What's up, guys? We're going to take a break really quick because I got to tell you a story. Imagine you're sitting in your house. It's cold outside. It's a little snowy. And you're like, man, I just want a panini. So you go and you order it, from DoorDash or something like that. And it never gets to you. You're looking at the app. You're like, dude, it's been 4 hours. Where's my panini? You're calling. No one answers. Well, this is a true story that happened. There was a woman, a client, that was working as a DoorDash driver, and she slipped and fell on an icy walkway outside of a Panera Bread in Fort Wayne, Indiana. She breaks her elbow, which leads to surgery and hardware having to get inserted into her arm. She can't work. And originally, she sues Panera, and Panera's like, okay, we'll give you $125,000. But then the good people over at Morgan & Morgan fought for her and got her the $1 million verdict that she deserved. Yes. If you never heard of them, Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. Yes, and they're that way for a reason. They've been fighting for the people for over 35 years. Now, I'll be honest, if I ordered, a panini and the woman gets paid $1 million because she slipped, it's a tragic thing to happen, of course, but I deserve a little bit of that. I should get a cut at least, right? I'm the one that ordered the panini. If I never ordered that panini, she never would have slipped, never got $1 million, which obviously she deserved. You know what I mean? But maybe next time she gets $1.1 million, I can get a cool 100,000 out of that. Regardless, all I'm saying is if you're ever injured and you are looking to get the money that you deserved, the compensation that is entitled to you from your injuries, Morgan & Morgan could be the way to go. Hiring the wrong law firm can be disastrous. You can be locked up in litigation. It's a nightmare. But hiring the right law firm could substantially increase your settlement. And with Morgan & Morgan, it's easy to get started. Their fee is $0 unless they win. That's right. Their fee is free unless they win your case. You don't pay you pay 0 cents unless they win your case. You can visit forthepeople.com/Gagnon, Gagnon. That is forthepeople.com/Gagnon, or dial #law. That's #529 from your cell phone. That's forthepeople.com/Gagnon, or click the link in the description below. And thank you so much to the good folks over at Morgan & Morgan for sponsoring this program and making this show possible with this paid advertisement. Well, let's get back to the show. And then there's also an inverse element of the disclosure argument where it's like, if this is brought up without any sort of definitive proof, because we don't want to, reveal all the tech, etc.
Yeah.
That you're going to have a contingent of the, UAP community or the disclosure community saying, oh, well, this is a psyop.
Totally.
Aliens are actually fake. This is not real at all. And this is a plan for a one world government, which I've seen people even kind of flirting with now. They're like, oh, they're going to do disclosure, but it's going to be a fake disclosure.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, so there's a whole contingent of the community pushing for disclosure, but then once it happens, it's actually not real.
Well, so, I see this online all the time. Man, I see people accusing Lou Elizondo or Christopher Mellon, who I know these both very well. I go to their homes, meet their wives, hang out. And I sit there and I'm like, okay, so How do I know this isn't a psyop? Because everything that they're saying aligns with my 30 plus years in the field. Like I've been around the world, China and Russia and Australia, Africa, South America, you're all over investigating the phenomenon. Every single word they say aligns exactly with my research in the field, right? So I'm like, okay, well, they're not saying anything that's ringing any alarm bells for me. No red flags that I can see. This is exactly if I was going to disclose and I was in their position. In fact, some of it's even greater detail, and I'm learning from it. So that's why I support that movement, because what are they saying that's not true? I mean, they use the threat aspect, but the only reason why they do that is because that gets the attention of Congress. Because if you have the Tic Tac, for instance, right? Like if that had a Russian flag on it, it would be all hands on deck.
Right.
It doesn't have any identifying markings on it, but if it did. But you get the attention of Congress, like, hey, you know, we're in these flight range areas or maybe over super secret military installations housing nuclear weapons, and you've got these unknowns coming and going at their will, and we can't do anything to stop it. That isn't national security. What is it? Well, it's not displaying any hostility now, but is it? Are we under surveillance? Like, what? Who is this?
Yeah.
And we need to know those things.
I'm curious, how do you approach this because I at least in speaking with you and seeing some of the docs, like I feel a resonance where you kind of approach things with like a healthy skepticism, but a vigorous curiosity, which is sort of how I feel, I think. And I don't want to misalign the way that you actually feel, but I look at different pieces of information and evidence with different levels of scrutiny. So like government docs I find interesting and more compelling. I find personal testimony very emotionally moving but difficult to verify because it's anecdotal. And then there's like the whistleblower contingent that is kind of both. So I'm curious, when you're looking at the plethora of evidence and different pieces of information, how do you try to wrap your head around it, and what do you find to be the most compelling evidence for the existence of these sort of anomalous objects?
So, I mean, what I know, obviously, what we have access to among civilians, right? Stuff that's leaked out, stuff that's slipped between the cracks, and believe me, some stuff has, but the vast majority has not. It's unbelievable. The better the evidence, the more compelling the data, the less likely the public's ever going to see it, and that's just around the world. We have radar confirmation. Right, that's come out. Let me pick a case. I mean, I'll pick this one case. I think it was 1986 over Alaska JAL flight. There were two pilots, and they had a very dramatic encounter with a colossal size UFO. I mean, it was just huge. And there was an FAA official, John Callahan, and he had kept all the radar data. The CIA tried to shut it all down. They had a meeting, and they confiscated everything, but he's like, I kept copies. And he kept copies of everything, the voice recordings, or during the encounter, the radar, ground radar, the plane's radar, like he had it all. That's pretty compelling data, right? I mean, you can just say, oh, that's all anecdotal. No, it's not actually. You've got two witnesses, you've got all the radar data, you've got the sound recordings, like, missing a photograph in that particular case, but very compelling data. So you've got
incredible witnesses.
Incredible witnesses that are pilots. It's a very long duration of the sighting. The government tries to squash the whole thing, and so that's one. Then we've got photographic evidence. I mean, I'll give one in particular that we could talk about right now if you want it. I think it's one of the best photographs ever, and it was buried for over almost 30 years.
Is this Nick Pope?
Yeah, well, this is the Calvine 1990 UFO, and I had heard about that almost 20 years ago. Probably was 20 years ago, and because I was like, I pulled Nick Pope aside, and I've been interviewing Nick Pope since he was still at the MOD in the late 90s. So Nick and I go way back. So I pulled Nick aside and Nick, what's the coolest case you ever investigated, And he'd be like, there's this one case in Scotland and 6 photographs and a military jet and broad daylight, points of reference, 2 witnesses. I'm like, where's that photograph? He goes, we made a big poster of it. And we just had it on the wall at MOD. And they're sitting there telling us, yeah, there it is. Yeah. And what makes this photograph so extraordinary is it's broad daylight, right? You got 2 witnesses. The MOD went at great lengths, and the Americans were involved as well. They squashed this story. And the only reason why we have this photograph today is because there was a guy named Craig Lindsay, and the guy responsible for putting it on is in my film, The Program. But Craig Lindsay was an RAF press officer, and he gets a call from the local newspaper, and they're like, "Hey, what do you make of this this UFO photograph or whatever that's making the round?" And he's like, "What? I don't know what you're talking about." And so the local newspaper like, "Oh, well, you haven't seen it?" It's like, "No, I haven't. Why would I have seen it? No, I haven't seen it." So they make a print, big one, 8 by 10 or whatever, and they send it to Craig Lindsay. He's like, "Holy shit! Like, this isn't any normal UFO photograph I've ever seen. Normally it's a little blurry, you know. This is like broad daylight, points of reference, military jet going around." And according to Craig Lindsay, there were 6 shots. And David Clark, if he's listening out there, thanks to him and all of his diligent hard work, this leaked out. But so Craig Lindsay gets like a call to investigate. He goes and meets with the witnesses. He talks with them, and they tell him, like, you know, this thing didn't make any noise. We were out hiking. They were actually terrified. It was like this diamond-shaped object, right, hovering silently right over their heads, like really close. And they didn't know what the hell they were looking at, these 2 witnesses. And then a military jet flies in and circles it, goes all the way around it. And they, at that point, got enough courage and they took 6 shots. And so every shot, according to Craig Lindsay, and he's seen all 6 of them, is the jet, which is a Harrier jump jet, was in a different position going around it. So I tell you, whoever was flying that, if you're listening, come forward, please. Whoever's flying that probably got some pretty good data.
Yeah.
You know, and a good visual. Can you imagine?
Right.
And so these 2 guys took their story to the local paper, Scotland Daily Record, I believe it was, and they were going to go worldwide with it. And the MOD stepped in. Craig Lindsay started doing some preliminary investigations, and then they just shut it down. The 2 witnesses vanished forever. To this day, nobody knows where they are.
Mm-hmm.
The prints were confiscated.
Yeah, the negatives of their photographs were
all
taken.
gone. Everything's gone. Okay, and so Craig Lindsay, who the local newspaper had sent him that one print, and he kept it all the way through his retirement. And then David Clark, who's investigating the case, he said there was a redacted document that came out. It said such and such blank, crossed out, redacted, at RAF, Scotland, in 1990. RAF Scotland. Oh, that's Craig Lindsay. So he contacts Craig Lindsay. Long story short, I don't know, it was 1 year or 2 years or however much time went by. Craig finds the photograph and decides they're going to go public with it. And that is why that picture, just give you an example, like this is the one they did everything in their power to shut it down. Richard Greaves was friends with the 2 photographers that took it, and he just came forward recently. He's in my film, the program. And because we didn't know, like, where did they go? Why they wanted to go public and all of a sudden they're gone?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that doesn't make any sense. What happened?
Yeah.
You know? So Richard Grieve, hopefully I pronounced his name correctly. One time he's like, "Mate, you're not pronouncing my name right." I'm like, sorry. I think he's like, "It's Grieve, not Greaves. Grieve." Grieve.
We're Americans, all right? We do our best.
Why?
We do our best.
Ghost. That's what he said. So he said they're out on a cigarette break. A couple days after this whole thing went down, they're out on a cigarette break at the restaurant they worked at, the hotel in Scotland, not far from Calvine. I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes away. And this car rolls up. And 2 shadowy figures get out of the car. And he said the driver stays in the car, and he was smoking a cigarette with the windows rolled up. And these 2 shadowy characters come out, and it's pissing rain. And they were on their cigarette break. And they're all outside having a cigarette break. And he said, "Cigarette break's over. You go back inside," and kept the 2 witnesses out there. And they're like, he said he went inside and he was looking out in the pissing rain, these 2 men in suits talking to the 2 witnesses. He said they came inside. He goes, "They were white as a fucking goose." He's like, I don't know what they said to them, but basically that was it. They started drinking heavily. They were sleeping in their cars at work, and then they both vanished, never to be seen or heard from to this day ever again.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's the Men in Black. And I say the Men in Black because, it's got a lot of baggage. The MIB's got a lot of baggage. But if I had a dime for every time I've heard those stories prior to me reporting on them, I'd be a gazillionaire. But I was always like, this men in, especially when the movie came out, I call them men in dark suits. They show up around the world every time. They're always American, mostly. They're intimidating looking. What organization are they with? Are they with OSI? I've been trying to find that out recently. I don't know. But they will show up no matter where it is, particularly if there's good evidence.
Really?
They shut this one down. That leaked out. Can you imagine how much data that we actually have? They did everything in their power to keep this photograph from coming out.
Now, the gentleman that leaked it, you said his name was?
Craig Lindsay, RAF press officer.
Was there ever...
Exactly. David Clark actually got him to leak it.
Was there ever any recourse for these two gentlemen that...
No, they went pretty public, and it was 30 years later, so... But he was concerned, for sure. He was concerned. And to this day, Nick Pope, there's certain things he can say and certain things he can't say.
Right.
But you read between the lines of what he is saying, he's like, we shut this down. We shut it down.
Now, why does this not move people? Like, you hear about this story, there seems like there's, at least corollary evidence with what's happening, and then a photograph leaks many years later. But still, like, why is this not front page news? Why are people immediately not like, well, there's this?
That's an interesting point. And I'm going to reference one time when I was interviewing some witnesses for the Phoenix Lights case. I don't know if your audience is familiar, but March 13th, 1997, there was a massive UFO flyover. There were multiple UFOs, orb-shaped UFOs, boomerang-shaped UFO was but roughly 2 miles across. I know this because I interviewed a lot of the witnesses, including the governor, Fife Symington, at the time. And I went for 10 years investigating that case, back and forth, new witnesses coming forward constantly. I was like, man, this is crazy. We had witnesses that were like out on the front lawns, lying on their backs, watching this boomerang-shaped UFO that was silent. It didn't have any air disturbance. They said, had I not looked up, I wouldn't have even known it was there. They're looking at compartments, and as it hovered, we thought it was going to land. I mean, it was just so big. And it took several minutes to pass over as we lay under, So I talked to the governor, Fife Symington. He saw it when he was governor.
Really?
Yeah, and he goes, man, that thing was not from this earth. I said, he goes, I'm a Air Force, I'm a pilot in the Air Force. He goes, I said, well, how do you know this thing was not from here? The governor goes, the size of the damn thing. Like, it was huge. You could land an airplane on it. So, let me tell you, so I'm interviewing 5 or 6 hospice workers that were out having tea under the night sky in March 13th, 1997. And they said, we're just, sitting outside having tea, discussing our patients, and that thing flies over the top of them, right? And they sitting in the garden, they looked up, and they watched it. Like, they said it took a couple minutes, and it just floated. They said it looked like a little city, little compartments. You could see the whole thing, and it floated. And I said, did you guys think about grabbing a camera, calling 911, getting in your car, chasing after it? Like, and they went, no. You didn't? No? What did you do? Well, we just went back to having tea. What? I couldn't wrap my mind around that. But then I realized sometimes it's just too much to process. Like, did we really see that? Did we not see that? Can we just treat that like a non-event? Like paralysis, like almost like, oh, and then right back to what they're doing. And that was a kind of a turning point for me, because I'm sitting there going, we got David Grush, that high-level intelligence official who testifies under oath in 2023. And I know people are frustrated because they're like, give me the details. You can't be making these extraordinary claims and not providing the evidence. Well, he was providing evidence behind the scenes. Certainly the ICIG, Thomas Monheim was getting the details, street addresses, and where's the due diligence with the media? Like, okay, so you don't believe the guy? Prove him wrong.
Right.
Get out there and do some digging. Jack diddly squat. Like, so little reporting on what could be. And you don't have to believe it. Prove him wrong. That's what you should do. Contact the former ICIG. Talk to him about the details. What is it going to take to get these various people that are making these extraordinary claims to come forward and give us the details needed to verify those claims? Because the implications are so profound. Why would we not do that?
Right.
Why would we not try to create a platform for these people to prove them wrong? Like, let's figure out what kind of executive order needs to come down to give these guys immunity so we can tell the public the truth. Like, why aren't they even trying to do that? To me, it's like, duh. Like, let's get, it's too important of a story not to.
What would proving them wrong look like?
What would what?
What, like proving someone like David Grush wrong?
Well, you'd have to see, so you'd have to figure out how to create an environment to get those details. Because you're making these extraordinary claims, and yet you're not giving us enough details to prove or disprove what you're saying, right? And that's frustrating. I get it, and people are frustrated. But I remind people, you know, we've had 4 open congressional hearings in the last couple of years. 4 open congressional. Prior to that, it was 1966. You know, like progress is being made. People are making these allegations, not 1, not 2, not 3, multiple. And especially now with Age of Disclosure, Dan Ferris' film. That's got 34 high-level military and government officials, including Marco Rubio.
Right.
Talking about a crash retrieval program. Hello? Like, are people not paying attention, or is this just ontological shock? Like, it can't be, therefore it isn't.
Right. Yes.
I don't know.
And so, but he's, like, Grush is doing, like, closed hearings.
Oh, 100%. Yes. I talked to Burleson. I talked to Congressman Burleson the other day at the last congressional hearing that I attended. And I was like, did you finally get into a skiff with Grush? He goes, oh, yeah. Yeah, we did. He goes, I walked out of that with a different look on life.
Really?
Yeah. That's just happened. Yeah.
That is fascinating.
So it's happening. It's happening right now. And I remember talking to people that were in the skiff. I guess I could use his name because he's in the movie. Kirk McConnell, Senate Armed Services Committee, investigating UFOs in physical capacity, looking for the crash retrieval program, blah, 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 blah. And he sat in with senators. I know what senators were in the skiff with him, and I know some of the details that were given, and it's like street addresses. This is who has it. This is where it is. This is where the labs are. Yeah, these are the names. I'm working on it myself. I'm down in the lab. First-handers.
Wow.
Maybe 12 so far, maybe more. But people first-handers, not no, my cousin I'm working on it.
Yeah. Looking at the actual retrievals.
I'm working on it with my own hands, yes.
Wow.
I would think it's somewhere between 7 and 12. I didn't get an exact number on it. That's happening right now.
Now, the people that you speak with, speaking with people that have experienced UFOs in like very close capacity by their own testimony, they describe like feelings. They'll say like, I saw this craft and I felt euphoria, or I felt this overwhelming feeling of like calm. Like they just describe sort of like this sort of like ethereal kind of experience.
Yeah.
I'm curious, in the people you spoke to, maybe in the Phoenix case or any of these other cases, do they describe a similar thing?
Okay, so that's a really good question, and I'm going to give you an example of that. So I interviewed this guy named Trig Johnson, and he was a pilot, Northwest Airlines at the time, and he had a really good sighting, because, you know, a lot of UFO sightings, you know, you get people, I saw this blur, you know, they're not these, this is a floating city. Almost could hit it with a rock. I mean, it was right there, and I watched him 10 minutes or whatever. Trig Johnson tells me this is extraordinary. He was with his son. I interviewed them both. And he goes, one more thing. And he was like this rough and tough, pragmatic cowboy, you know, cowboy hat, like just super grounded, nuts and bolts kind of guy.
Knows what's going on. In
totally.
Control.
Yeah. And he's like, there's one more thing. And I was like, what? I don't want to fucking talk about it like this. And I was like, no, Trig, I want to hear it. Like, tell me. No, I don't know. And so I said, look, man, I'm going to take you seriously. I see what I do for a living. I hear all kinds of crazy stuff. Bring it. Give it to me. Yeah, it said something to me. And he knew, like, the optics of that. Like, he knew, because he himself would be the guy that goes, oh, you know, this is a bunch of woo-woo.
Yeah, you talk to aliens,
you know,
all right.
Exactly, yeah. And he said, no, he goes, all right, it said something like that. And I was like, well, what did it say? And he said, we're here in peace. We mean you no harm, something like that. Yeah. But that was like, you know, that was the first time, like, I really got that level of communication with someone I really believed. And I was like, then I've heard, of course, I've heard 1,000 more since then. But
and was it telepathic, this communication?
Telepathic, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And did he describe feeling like calm?
Yeah. We're not here to harm you. We're we come in peace. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was, the implication was, we're not harmful. We're not here to, yeah.
And this sighting was in his aircraft, or was he on the ground?
On the ground. 1997, March 13th.
Wow.
Phoenix, Arizona. That craft went from the north, started off in Nevada, but it went all the way down through the state of Arizona, all the way down to the south. And then it disappeared off the Barry Goldwater mountain range. Maybe about 9:30, 10 o'clock, something like that. But anyway, and everybody at the time was out to get a glimpse of the Hale-Bopp comet. So people were outside trying to look at the Hale-Bopp comet. That's why it was seen by so many people, because they were like out there trying to get, you know.
Interesting.
So it was seen by thousands. It was a really good case, mass sighting. And you ask about like what cases I like to focus on, like I like multi-witness cases. I like cases, particularly in broad daylight if I can get them, but multiple people, like Rua, Zimbabwe, 1994. There were roughly 100 school children out, 10:30 in the morning, the object comes down, it lands, you know, and I remember when I was doing reporting on that for the phenomenon, I had this guy, Larry, you know, big gold chains, like he was helping do some funny. He goes, you know, James, you mean to tell me a UFO came down and landed in a goddamn school? You know, no, I'm not spending a dime on this case. I said, Larry, just stop, please, no, listen to because there was a Harvard psychiatrist by the name of Dr. John Mack, and he had gone there right after it happened, and he documented all these kids.
He did an interview, and like
he did 66 kids. That's why they always say it's 66. It was more than 66. I went there. I talked to the teachers. There were like 100, but 66 went on camera. And I said, no, Gary, I know, because I heard about that case, and that one I also dismissed because when I was working on my first UFO documentary in the 90s, in the mid 90s, I was just naive enough, young and dumb enough to think, well, I get an interview with Steven Spielberg, you know, of course. Like, why not? And I had a mutual friend that I knew that knew him, Janet Yang, and she goes, well, you know, he actually said he's not going to meet with you, and he's not going to go on camera, but he does want you to know there's a landing case that happened in Africa, in Rua, Zimbabwe, at the school. You should look into it. And I thought to myself, you know, I mean, it came from Spielberg, right? But a UFO landing at a school, and they come on, please, like, come on, really?
This is
and
post ET, like the film.
Yeah.
So you're like, all right, this is.
Well, yeah, I was like, I'm not gonna, no. And I just 10 years, I didn't even look into it for 10 years, like, you know, because it can't be, therefore it isn't. Like, my whole philosophy was, how could you have an event like that and the whole world not know about it? You can't have a landing at school. That's contact. Right? So, no. And now I've learned to suspend judgment. Just, you know, suspend judgment, listen to the witnesses, and then draw my own conclusions. And from there, because every time I've dismissed a case, there are some cases that deservedly got dismissed, but I've learned, like, oh my gosh, I ended up doing extensive reporting on it.
What's up, guys? We're going to take a break really quick because you need help pitching your tents. Yes, and that's what we do over here at camp. Maybe you're, I don't know, in line waiting for a concert somewhere and you just need something to lean on. Who knows? Maybe you just need help pleasing the special man or woman in your life. And that's why I want to talk to you guys about Blue Chew. Blue Chew is the ultimate service to get you discreet supplements right to your home. And what do these supplements do? They give you that leg, that third leg, the important one. And Blue Chew is going to help you lay it down, okay? It's an amazing service that's coming straight to your door. And for the listeners of this very program, they are going to get their first month of Blue Chew for free. All you need to use is the promo code GAGNON, Gagnon, and you'll have them gagging. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm saying, my boy. So go to bluechew.com and try the promo code GAGNON, Gagnon, and you're going to get your first month free. All you got to do is pay $5 for shipping. That's like a coffee, okay? So to skip your morning cold brew and instead get that hard brew for an entire month. Yes, that is at bluechew.com. Use the promo code GAGNON and start laying it down like they deserve. Let's get back to the show.
Yeah, the Zimbabwe case is so interesting because it's how do you get 66 kids to lie in such specificity?
Yeah.
Like, again, children have imaginations, I get it, but, you know, kids have they have a kind of a raw honesty, right? Like, I think about, like, remember the Balloon Boy case? Remember this? Like, there was a kid that... He got taken off in like this giant sort of like balloon thing, and they flew around, and then they found out that the kid was actually, you know,
he wasn't in it
at all.
Right, but they thought he was in it, and they were
and the way they disclosed it is that they're interviewing the family on TV, and they're asking them like, oh, like how did this happen? You thought the kid was in it, but actually he wasn't. And the kid basically just says like, oh, my dad told me to hide in the basement.
Oh my!
So that it could be a news story, but the child is so honest and so innocent that his dad was basically trying to fake something, and the honesty broke through. And in this case, you would imagine like one of the kids would be like, "Well, my teacher told me to make this up so that our school would be on TV," or whatever the rationale for making all of these children lie about this sighting. and it doesn't seem like any of them broke with what the narrative of what they saw was.
So this is interesting because I, with the help of Randall Nickerson, I brought all the kids, a lot of the primary witnesses, together for the first time in 20 years, and we filmed for the phenomenon. And one of the witnesses, Emma, and I know there were others, she said, "Well, I've got to tell my husband." I said, "Tell your husband what?" She's like, "About the incident." I said, "You're married and you have kids, and you didn't tell your husband about this?" What?
You think that'd be first date, right?
Yeah, like, yeah, right, for a second. Yeah, and she's like, "No, I was just got tired of defending it."
Wow.
So it's like, you know, you're bottling that up, and everything that she saw 20 years ago that's on tape is exactly the same thing now and exactly the same thing today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with everything to lose and nothing to gain.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why on earth? This is like such a, you know, it's becoming a little more acceptable. And, but paralleling that, one thing I will say kind of behind the scenes is that when I talk about Close Encounters of the Third Kind, you know, people look at me sideways, you know, rightfully so, I guess. I have to say, well, that doesn't come from me. The United States Air Force has been investigating these things, and they had Project Sign, Project Grudge, Project Blue Book, and they're the ones that categorized UFO sightings in Close Encounters of the First Kind. It's when someone sees a UFO. Close Encounter of the Second Kind, they see a UFO and somehow the UFO interacts with the environment. Maybe burn marks on the face or landing prints on the ground, or radar, or photograph, or whatever. It interacts with the environment. And then Close Encounter of the Third Kind, and this is coming right out of the Air Force books, okay? This was Dr. J. Allen Hynek, the scientific advisor to the United States government, and they broke it down. Close Encounter of the Third Kind is when witnesses report entities connected to the craft. And those cases are plentiful globally. And that's coming, and you look at the documents directly, particularly ones that get FOIA'd or that were previously classified that are now out. It's in plain sight, man. It's right there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not me, you know, saying this. I mean, sure, I'm reporting on it as well, but this the Air Force figured that out pretty quickly.
The Zimbabwe incident, the children spoke with beings, correct?
Telepathic, yeah.
Right, but they saw beings.
Yes.
And they reported, correct me if I'm wrong, like environmental concerns.
Yes.
That was one of the big things,
Taking
right?
Better stewards of the earth.
Right, which is kind of a recurring theme.
Yeah.
It seems like with a lot of these sightings and
Taking
like third, close
shutting
encounters.
our nukes off.
Yeah. I'm curious, do you find that to be a common theme that comes up?
I find that to be rather soothing, quite honestly.
Yeah, it is nice that these aliens
like
just
somebody's
hippies.
looking out for
Yeah,
us.
it's like,
It
dude,
ain't
just
us.
smoke some weed, chill out for a minute. You know what I mean? Just take a step back.
Absolutely.
It seems to be recurring though.
Yeah, you know, it's really funny because I interviewed this launch control officer, and I always remember this. And I was like, no wonder why this guy's a launch control officer. He has this demeanor that it was just like, he's so calm and centered and measured. Everything that comes out of his mouth is like carefully calculated, and he's calm. And I said, my God, they shut the nukes off. And you were, oh God, what? That's like sending a message. And he goes, yeah, James, the message was pretty clear. Maybe. I said, what? And he goes, well, it's like taking matches out of the hands of a baby. Maybe you guys shouldn't be playing around with these things. You know, that one always just really struck a chord with me, you know,
Right.
Hearing that from the guy who was there watching his nukes get shut off. A UFO come over the base, shut them off, and then whiz, gone.
Yeah.
And, you know, can't do anything about it. And this is another thing, it's like these school incidents, there's landings at schools, like, holy smokes, like, wow. You start looking into it, there's a lot of them.
Right.
I mean, I covered the 1966 Westall UFO incident. Shane Ryan, thank you if you're listening for helping expose that one. But there were 360 plus kids outside.
Where was this?
Australia.
Okay.
Right outside Melbourne. 1966, April 4th, I believe, or 6th, 5th, 6th. 360 plus people, including the science professor, the teachers, and all watching this disc-shaped object dart around in the sky over the school, Westall Primary School, and then it lands. And a handful of the kids, I interviewed them, ran over to where this thing landed and stood there in broad daylight with this disc on the ground. Like, what is this thing? Like, right there. Like, almost walk over and touch it. And then it lifted back up again, turned on its side, and shot off at extremely high rate. And there's a guy named James Kibble that took a photograph, a Polaroid of it, probably the same object, just a few kilometers away, either day before or 2 days before, or I think it was maybe 2 days prior. It's also in the phenomenon. So, I don't know. I mean, if I were trying to establish some level of communication, children are pretty benign. Mm-hmm. I know our military generally shoots first and asks questions later. So, like, if I were, and I'm just speculating, but if I were to make any kind of peaceful contact, I probably would land at a school too.
Right.
Because you get shot up landing anywhere else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You might get a slingshot or something
like
at a school.
Yeah, you might get a slingshot.
A kickball in the window, but you can live. Was there contact in that case? Like, was there any type of communication?
Well, when I was there, I went on a big radio show in Australia talking about that case, and so one person called in and it's like, oh, there was an entity outside, but that's the only account. No, generally speaking, no, that was not contact. But landing.
Interesting.
And a good one too. I mean, can you imagine? And of course, the men in black or the men in suits showed up on that case and threatened the science teacher who just passed, Mr. Greenwood. And I got Greenwood to come forward for the first time in history in the phenomenon. And then subsequently to that, Ross Coulthart did an interview with him. And thank God, because he's no longer with us. But he said, yeah, they came and threatened him big time.
In what way? Do you
just keep your mouth shut? If you want to keep your job, we're going to destroy you. Like, we're going to say you're drunk, you're drinking with kids, all the above. Just threatened him, and he didn't talk for 50 years.
Wow,
50 years.
And these are American men in black guys.
Sometimes, like for instance with Virginia, there were a Brazilian-speaking person with two other foreigners that they assumed were Americans that didn't open their mouths, and so. But it would probably be at the direction of the American. I mean, they certainly, are in control of the situation much more than, with an exception with China and Russia. But the Americans pretty much dominate the global. The reason why I know this is because I've interviewed people from Tehran, I've interviewed people in Africa, all over the world. I can give countless cases, and I'm like, Americans again?
Yeah.
Like, what? How did you even hear about it? Like, Tehran, Iran was in 1975 with General Parviz Jafari, told me, and I flew him into Washington, D.C. to testify at the National Press Club back in 2007. And he was like, yeah, and then the Americans showed up the next morning. And the sighting happened like 2 a.m. Wow. How did they hear about that so quickly? How did they get there? Like, what were they doing? Americans?
What do you make of that? Like, granted, Tehran in 75, it's like pre-revolution, so it's probably easier to go.
Well, yeah, but they were also in Belgium in 89. I interviewed the Belgian general, General de Brouwer, Air Force general in Belgium. And he's like, oh, yes. And then, the Americans showed up and they wanted the radar reports, the radar tapes. And he's like, okay, well, give me an official request and I'll give you copies. They wouldn't do that because there's a paper trail.
Interesting.
But it was like, oh, they're investigating that case too. Like, they're there.
What would happen?
Bentwaters, England, 1980. I interviewed the deputy base commander, Colonel Charles Halt. I also interviewed the general on the base. And he's like, yeah, this plane flew in, American plane flew in, sanitized, exposed the witnesses to sodium pentothal.
What is that?
It's some kind of truth serum. And the deputy base commander was like, I don't know what the hell this plane came in. They had control of the situation. They screwed with my men. They did, took whatever evidence they had. The landing print, evidently they took photographs. Those were gone. Like, oh, they didn't turn out, But so they have a global footprint.
A truth serum. Have you looked into that before?
Well, I'm just telling you what was told to me by the guy that was there. He just said that his men were given this truth serum, I guess, trying to find out what they really saw. I don't know.
Have you ever looked into this substance? What you said it was sodium?
Sodium pentothal is what I heard, yeah.
And have you ever looked into that?
No.
It seems like a wild thing.
Yeah, what does it say?
Well known in pop culture under the name sodium pentothal, truth serum. Efficacy is questioned.
Truth serum.
Wow, I've never even heard of that.
Yeah. That's what Colonel Charles Hall told me. Yeah.
We should try some of that. Get some of that on the pod. Priestess, run to the corner store.
Like, don't believe in UFOs. It's all nonsense, okay?
Get some sodium pentothal here immediately. We're going to be ripping lines, dude. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm curious, have you heard of a case of any type of anomalous craft in a non-friendly country, like a North Korea or like a post-revolution Iran? And what is the American intervention in that situation?
I don't know, to answer your question. I know there are cases in China, and I never heard of any Americans being there.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't hear of it. Doesn't mean that's not the case. I didn't hear of it.
Sure.
I don't know if they have a deal with them or not, but landing case, Mengjiaohua in the Black Forest, I think. And it happened the same year that the landing case happened in Africa, and the same message.
Interesting.
Yeah, being better stewards of the environment.
Okay, I have a bunch of questions on that.
Yeah.
But first, I want to ask, it's interesting that Spielberg is kind of the one that like low-key tipped you off to the Zimbabwe case.
Yeah.
And this was,
90s.
One explanation is, right, he's like doing this film, E.T., and he's discussing, extraterrestrial stuff. And at this point, there's been, many, extraterrestrial type movies. So
let me say one thing real quickly about Spielberg that's relevant to what you're telling me right now.
Yeah.
Spielberg did Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Guess who's in that movie? Dr. Jalen Hynek, who investigated UFOs in an official capacity for the United States Air Force, has a cameo in that movie.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And that was Spielberg basically saying, and those files came to, even down Richard Dreyfuss' face being burned, that came right out of Project Blue Book files.
Right.
So Spielberg worked with the guy that knew.
Right.
And he put him in the movie as a little,
little wink.
Yeah.
There's also reference to like Jacques Vallée, like his characters.
Of course. It was
in the film. Like,
absolutely. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt
no,
you.
but this is a guy that is well researched in the field, right? Which makes sense if you're making multiple movies about
Spielberg
this.
has Dr. Hynek in his movie. Like that's basically like wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
What do you make of like predictive programming in film and TV? You're familiar with this term? The idea of like putting things out into pop culture so as to either
gauge the public awareness or
to try to placate the public, to try to make things seem crazy in science fiction, or to maybe get people prepared for things. There's things I've heard in like sort of conspiracy world that people have talked about, like, oh, Men in Black is a way to kind of discredit things, that when we're saying Men in Black right now, people go, you mean Will Smith? Yeah. Like talking about like a hunched over little alien guy. Like it's so absurd because we've seen it in the movies.
That's why I don't like using the word Men in Black. I mean, I say it, but it's because it's got baggage.
But I'm curious, like, if you have a perspective on, do these guys do research on films and pull stuff from reality to make great movies? Are they doing the movies intentionally in cooperation with intelligence services to try to inject things into public consciousness? I'm curious if you've thought about that.
Yeah. So back in 2 consecutive weekends in July of 1952, you had, because people always go, well, if UFOs are real, why don't they land on the White House lawn? I'm like, they almost did it in 52. I don't know if you know about that case, but it was so intense and so many people witnessed, and they scrambled military jets. This is over the Capitol, 1952. 2 consecutive weekends in July. You can Google it. UFOs over D.C., 1952. They had a press conference about it. General John Sanford got up in front of the world. It was the biggest press conference since the end of World War II. It was huge. And it was a big deal. Like, I mean, UFOs were buzzing the Capitol. Big time, right? And they were shaking in their boots like, oh my gosh, what are we about to make what's going on here? And we can't really deny it because too many people witnessed it. They scrambled military jets. They actually given authorization to shoot. Like, it was a big deal. I cover it in The Phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
And the Air Force didn't know what to do. So they convened a panel. It was called the Robertson Panel. This probably January of the following year, 53. And basically consulted with the CIA. It's like, all right, what do we do here? What do we tell the public? How do we deal with this problem, basically? And this panel basically made a number of determinations. But one of the things they said, look, if we can't deny the existence or there's too much compelling data, what we can do is we can adopt, and in referring to the United States Air Force, we can adopt a policy of ridicule. So you make fun of those who claim to have seen them.
Mm-hmm.
And that really stuck. I mean, it was a very effective campaign. And I got to tip my hat to them as much as I'm upset about it. Wow, that worked, Because what's so funny about an airline, pilot reporting something that just doesn't make any sense. Like, you know, I mean, all right, these things happen, whatever. But to make fun of them, there's no incentive or career-enhancing move to come forward. Particularly, an airline wouldn't want to be associated to pilots that see UFOs. It's not good branding.
Yeah, of course.
Right? So that was a very effective campaign. And as far as like movies being done that can gauge the public interest or awareness. I mean, I had a lot of people when Close Encounters of the Third Kind came out, they were like, people that were witnesses, like they felt validated. Like, oh my God, that's exactly what I saw. Well, that happened to me. Is like, you know, wow. And honestly, I'm not exactly sure what Spielberg's objective was. Or was he? I mean, he certainly was working with government insiders in the sense that Dr. Hynek, who investigated in an official capacity, participated in that movie and was a consultant. Jacques Vallée, his character, was portrayed. You know, so there's a lot of truth in that movie. Lots of truth. And it was tremendously popular. But was the government behind? I don't know. I don't know.
It's not out of the realm of possibility.
No, but I remember hearing about, it might have been Men in Black. You can look it up, but they basically said to the director or the producers, like, if you mention Area 51, you're no longer going to have any of our support. Or Roswell with the bodies, Area 51. It was like, we're not going to cooperate with you at all.
Interesting.
And they did anyway. Yeah, I think it was Men in Black, but it could have been another one. But anyway, you can research it.
What's up, people? We're going to take a break because we got new merch. That's right. It is the holiday season, and the good folks over at Camp R&D have been cooking up in the lab. We got the Christmas sweaters with the aliens. We got the Christmas sweaters with the conspiracy vibes. You already know. I mean, this one might be my favorite one. A Christmas tree full of aliens. Full Christmas sweater energy. And then, of course, if you just want something simple, you know, you bust out the camp logo tee with the little Christmas lights on it. Come on, bro, get cute for Christmas, okay? It is the holiday season, all right? We're celebrating the birth of the Savior, okay? What better way to do it than to cop a couple threads for the person in your life that you know that loves the campsite, that loves hanging with us every single week. And right now...
The Joe Rogan Experience.
So we're following and pleading with them all the way out there. Please, just tell us.
When I got there, I smelled a foul odor, like ammonia with rotten eggs, burning my eyes. Half the craft remained intact by a tree, and the debris of the back part was scattered everywhere.
Nesse momento, rapidamente, chegou vários veículos militares.
Multiple army vehicles arrived promptly.
Nesse momento, estava meio... Eu estava no meio dos destroços, onde houve esse negócio. E esses fragmentos, tá, eu levei baixei e peguei na minha mão. E observei que ele era muito leve, não tinha peso nenhum. Parecia um papel alumínio. Aquelas folhas de papel alumínio bem fininhas. E amassei. Ao soltá-lo, porque eu tomei um susto gigantesco, ele voltou ao formato normal. Meu Deus, o que é isso?
At that point, I was in the middle of the wreckage, and I picked up a lightweight fragment resembling aluminum foil. I crumpled it in my hand, but when I let go, it instantly resumed its shape.
Nesse exato momento, soldado do exército, da ESA, se mais preciso, do Brasil, veio em minha direção com um rifle, tá? E começou a gritar, vai embora, vai embora. E no que ele deu impacto, tirou de mim esse fragmento, ok? E eu respondi para ele, não, eu não vou, tem gente caída lá, machucada. Para mim, naquele momento, não fazia sentido. Para mim era, ele vai embora, vai embora. Eu falei, não vou. Ele deu um passo para trás, levantou a arma, engatilhou, apontou para minha cabeça. Eu não estou pedindo, eu estou mandando, eu vou abrir a tua cabeça no meio se você não for embora.
A soldier approached fast and hit me in the chest with his rifle, so I was forced to drop the metal I was holding. He shouted, "Leave now." I replied, "No, People in there need help. He aimed his gun at my head and said, I am not requesting, it is an order. Leave now or I'll split your skull.
Virei-me imediatamente, tremendo, morrendo de medo, sem entender nada. E estava muito assustado mesmo com tudo aquilo.
I turned and departed immediately. I was very scared and confused.
Saí do local imediatamente, que não tinha o que fazer, estava com medo, não entendia nada. E caminhei até um posto de gasolina, porque eu falei, vou tomar um café e me acalmar. Tudo aquele negócio era demais para minha cabeça. Sorry. Desculpem-me. E para me recompor, fui ao posto tomar um café para me recompor. Em poucos minutos, uns 4 minutos, 5 minutos no máximo, chegou um carro escuro, um Opala, um carro da época, azul escuro, quase preto, com 2 homens bem vestidos, elegantes, ternos pretos, camisa branca, óculos escuros, desceram e vieram ao meu encontro. Ok.
I left the area and stopped at the first gas station to compose myself. A few minutes later, a very dark blue, near black vehicle pulled up. 2 suited men got out and approached me.
Ok. Um deles veio em minha direção, tá, e me chamou pelo meu nome. Falou o nome da minha esposa, o nome do negócio, para mim, apontando o dedo para mim, e perguntou. Eu perguntei para ele, falando se eu era o Carlos Souza, se eu era isso, e apontando ele para mim. Eu perguntei para ele, quem é você? Não te conheço. Ele respondeu frio e simplesmente, você não viu nada, você não sabe de nada, ou você terá sérios problemas o resto da sua vida.
One of these men approached him and called him by name, stating his address, naming wife and business, and he asked, "Who are you?" And this man threatened, "You saw nothing, you know nothing, or you will have problems for the rest of your life."
Partiram rapidamente. Nesse momento, eu peguei um papel aqui, guardanapo, limpar a boca, com uma caneta, para anotar a placa do veículo. Porque, para mim, quem eram aquelas pessoas para falarem aqui? Só que ao chegar na porta do estabelecimento que estava tomando café, quem falou que o carro tinha placa? Não havia placa no veículo. Eles simplesmente partiram.
They departed swiftly. I grabbed a napkin to write down the license plate, but there wasn't one.
Imploro a todos os presentes aqui, após 30 anos, ridicularizado, julgado pela sociedade, não nos abandone novamente. Permitam que a verdade venha à tona. Tenham coragem de falar a verdade para nós. Eu não sou louco. Ninguém é louco. Minha família, em qualquer um. Por favor, falem a verdade. Aquele que sabe, as autoridades. Só peço isso. Obrigado.
I implore the authorities and people present, after 30 years of ridicule and societal judgment, do not abandon us again. Allow the truth to emerge. Summon the courage to disclose it. Thank you very much.
That's a very, very powerful speech.
Well, good morning, good evening, good day. Hello, Megan Medic.
Ross, it's a hot start. I already can't hear you. We just tested this for minutes and can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
I'm well versed at reading your lips. So hold on 1 second.
I'm getting a significant delay on my audio here, by the way.
How about now? I was like, Ross, can you see? Can you?
Megan, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Megan, but unfortunately there is a 5-second audio.
Hi, Ross. Hold on. I could just hear you 1 minute ago. Apologies. Oh. Ross, are you there?
Yeah, it's the normal snafu, Megan. If something can go wrong, it will. Yeah.
So, Ross, I am so sorry. I cannot hear you. But you know, our executive producer Andy, I know that you're here listening. Andy, I can hear the sound from our News Nation camera, who is right here in the room with us. I'm trying to see what I can show you.
Yeah, do you want to just...
I'm going to try to figure out my audio. I'm so sorry, you guys. We just had it 1 second ago when we were doing this testing. Andy?
You can hear me, Megan? Maybe she can't. Ross, why don't you just tell the folks, there's about 5,000 in the chat. Tell them what we're about.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are obviously trying to get a good connection going.
No, I've got nothing from Ross now.
Megan, if you just give me 30
Andy,
seconds.
Do you want to just remove me and I can try to troubleshoot?
All right, Ross.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're obviously doing the live feed of the Brazil Varginha UAP press conference. I think, Andy, we have a problem technically, so we may just have to go live with Megan on the ground.
Can you hear the music, Ross?
Yes, I can.
Megan's doing some troubleshooting, so if you just want to tell folks a little bit about what the event's going to be.
Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, this press conference is potentially one of the most important press conferences in the last 20 years from the UAP. Unfortunately, Andy, I'm getting return audio of my audio, which is delayed by about 5.
We'll work on troubleshooting it.
Yeah. Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen, but we will be running the press conference live in a few minutes when it starts. And this is an opportunity for the direct first-hand witnesses of what was allegedly the...
So, Ross, can you hear me? I can hear you now. I would love to show some people some behind-the-scenes things that are going on. I've got right here next to me, I've got James Fox with Sarah Graham. James, Anna, Ross.
Hey, Ross, how you doing, mate?
We are live streaming.
The Brazilian Senator Joel. I have to be left about it. He just arrived, so they're
We're doing great. We're doing good. Good luck, James. Yep, we are nice and smooth. All right, we've got James Fox in the room. You guys, the 3 witnesses who are testifying in person today, they are also here. I have a picture of two of them. I'm going to turn the camera. Oh, no, just one of them. We have Carlos over here in the hat. As you know, Carlos was on the scene when the crash happened. Is it just my picture line now?
Yes.
So as you guys know, this case is extremely complex, and I was lucky enough to be invited by James Fox last night to the rehearsal of this press conference. I got to see these men and get up there and give their statements. They are written statements, and there will be a translator up there translating with them. But they are emotional and they are powerful. And these gentlemen who are giving their statements, the neurosurgeon, while he was giving his written statements just in practice last night, he was brought to tears. And it was just incredible to see the passion behind this and hopefully the potential power behind this. We know that this has been going, the story is 30 years old now, but they kept saying in the meeting last night is what they really want is whistleblower protection. And they want to be able to have more people come forward and speak. And also they want this to be a gigantic signal to the United States. You were involved, allegedly. This happened. And we need you to support us and showing us, hey, where are these potential alien bodies? Where is this potential alien spacecraft? Who are the people in the United States Air Force who allegedly went into Brazil and took these things? Can you come forward? Will you be safe? Will you be protected if you come and speak? I just want to reiterate, and Russ, of course, you can jump in any time, that this is the first time. The reason this is so important is this is the first ever testimony of non-human biologics that's happening in DC.
Are there witnesses? Are there witnesses today, Megan, who have not spoken before?
Well, we've seen the statements. We have Carlos, who was at the scene, and then we have the doctor who walked into the room and saw the alien body, and then we have now the man who performed the autopsy on the Brazilian officer who died. So his testimony is quite new. What he is saying is that these biologics, so this officer in Brazil allegedly touched one of the beings and received a scratch under his armpit. And because of that scratch, ended up dying 26 days later. So he did the autopsy on this young man that died. And he's saying that there were no pharmaceuticals at the time to treat this infection. The biologics there are not human. They are not from this world. Even today, 30 years later, continuing to study this man's tissue, what was in his tissue, there's still not an antibiotic that exists that could treat this or prevent this because it is not human.
Okay. And do we know who's kicking off first? Obviously, James is going to lead in with the press conference, but do we know which witnesses are speaking first?
Yeah, let me just go back to my notes from last night. In practice last night, we had Dr. Vitalio Venturelli, the neurosurgeon who saw the alien.
And the thing I find amazing is these are people who are saying that they have had direct contact with a non-human being. People often say everything about the UAP subject is anecdotal, it's circumstantial. The important thing about today is that this is the presentation of direct first-hand evidence, isn't it?
Correct. Direct first-hand evidence, and it's just so interesting because these men, and let's not forget the three sisters who also saw the baby, they have nothing to do with one another. It's not like you investigate and like, oh, that's someone's cousin and they're telling a big tale together as a joke. These men don't know each other. One man was an ultralight pilot and he was just going out to fly planes in the morning and he sees a massive crash and does what the human instinct does. Let's get out there and let's see. And then he touched a piece of this craft and he crumbled it up and it right back to the shape that it was. So touched the craft. He did not see any beings, but we have the doctor who did. And you walk in to do your job and then you're presented with something non-human, which is quite stunning.
So, Megan, what's the crowd like? I know James was worried that people may not come to the press conference, but we tried to give the story a good push along in our preview story on Monday. What's the attendance at the press conference at the moment?
Let me move my camera around, and I will just give you a big 360 view of what is going on. So here, we've got like the backstage area. I am in the front row. Hello, there's my head. There's everyone all behind me. Our News Nation photographer is behind me.
That's a significant turn. That's an impressive bunch of
we got
people.
some people waving. And then we have the stage, of course, right here. And then we have James is getting ready to walk onto the stage with one of the translators. So it is a significant turnout. And funny, this morning, I was at the News Nation DC Bureau at about 8 a.m. and our photographer, who was here in the back, called me and said there were already fans lining up, waiting to come in.
Okay, so here we go.
Thank you guys so much for coming. It's a pleasure to see you guys here.
Thank you guys so much for coming. It's a pleasure to see you guys here.
So James just said, no, you guys are not here. They're just a few minutes behind schedule. But I have personally seen
Nothing wrong with being nothing wrong with being fashionably late for a UAP press conference that's revealing an alien UFO crash and the recovery of alien beings. I can imagine.
Hold on, I have the doctor walking by. Did you guys get a good look at him? You guys know him from obviously moment of contact, and we talked about him extensively on reality check that he worked on an alien body.
Are these witnesses nervous, Megan?
Yes. Last night during rehearsals, it was almost like a nervous energy. It was kind of quiet in there. Hi, James.
Interruption.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
Reports coming in that the sound feedback is probably.
Okay, are we having any problems with the sound feedback from the direct feed? James is concerned about the sound.
The feed itself sounds okay. This is Andy. The feed sounds okay through the alt box.
Yeah, I think it's working fine now. We were getting an echo back earlier, Megan, but it seems to have fixed itself.
Good. Love when things work out.
Do we know? Is there any mention, Megan, of whether any of these witnesses have met with congressional representatives or senators? Has there been any political engagement with any of these witnesses?
Yes. So James Fox did let us know that on Thursday that there was a meeting. I do not have the details of that, but James did let us know that those meetings happened on Thursday, and those were all the details that we were allowed to receive at that time.
And is there any prospect of those witnesses being deposed, being sworn under oath to give evidence?
I would hope so, Ross. I worry because the UAP presser that we covered in Congress in September, Jeff Nicatelli, who was a witness at that case, I did run into him last night and we did have a conversation. And he let me know that he has had absolutely no contact from members of Congress. Not one person has reached out to us for more details, his side of the story, for more information. So that concerns me a bit. I know that some members of Congress are said to be coming here today to this conference, that they were going to be taking the back. So I will, of course, keep my eyes open for that. And hopefully this can move the needle, because the claims, this story of this week-plus long event in Brazil is truly one of the most incredible that we've heard. The evidence here is very, very compelling.
Right. So I think what we're most interested to know is what's going to come out of today's press conference, because obviously these witnesses are being given an opportunity to present to the public and the media what they say happened in Varginha 30 years ago, literally today. But the big issue is going to be, what is the American government? What is going to be the response, if any? Is there going to be any action? And I guess that's what we need to hear out of today's press conference. You know, is there any possibility that congressional committees will formally depose these witnesses and take their evidence under oath so that this matter can be properly investigated? I think also, Megan, one of the things that we're most anxious to get out of today is there will be people watching this people in the US Air Force, people in the US military, the intelligence community, who almost certainly know more about the Virginia case from 1996. If the stories are correct, and we believe they are, there was an Air Force plane that was deployed to Brazil to recover not only the craft, but also the beings which returned to the United States. There must be people with first-hand knowledge of this event in the United States who can corroborate what happened. This could be, and I think James has got a point here, that this could be an absolutely key piece of evidence to push Congress and the US government, and particularly the Trump administration, into making some kind of admission about what the United States actually knows about the UAP mystery. Because at the moment, as we go into this press conference, the official US government position, of course, is that there is no evidence of extraterrestrial engagement with this planet. But this is one of many famous historic press conferences that have been held at the National Press Club, and I just hope that this one isn't consigned to oblivion after these noble people have made the courageous decision to come forward and give this evidence today.
Yes, absolutely right. And you know, that is something that we would hear at the end. We would hear from a new voice, someone who was new to me last night. And that is the call for them to come forward. And I did ask last night when I was with everybody, you know, what do you want? What is the outcome that you want? Because is it to be believed or just have your story heard? And they said, we want the executive branch to protect whistleblowers, and we want Congress to investigate the case.
And is there, I mean, this is the thing, though. I mean, I'm very disappointed.
Can you guys please excuse me for just 1 second? I'm just going to have to mute myself. Someone needs to speak with me.
Okay. So as we go into this press conference, the reason why this press conference matters is because this is incredible work that James Fox has done over the last 30 years to investigate the Virginia case. Virginia matters because it's direct evidence. It's first-hand evidence not only of the recovery of an alien craft, a non-human craft, alien technology. It's also evidence from these doctors firsthand and pathologists who conducted an autopsy that what we're dealing with here is biologics that are not human, non-human, intelligent, advanced beings. This is the stuff that frankly has been ridiculed and treated with taboo, stigma and contempt by so much of the media and the commentariat for decades. This is an opportunity for witnesses to present their first-hand evidence in a way that hopefully will galvanise movement from the Congress and from the Trump administration. Is there other media there, Megan? Are there any other news media cameras there apart from News Nations?
Yes, I met one of Danny Sheehan's producers. So I saw Danny Sheehan's producers when we went in. There are a bunch of cameras in the back. I cannot tell you specifically who they are with, but as I lift my camera up quickly, if you can see all the way in the back, there are a bunch of cameras back there.
And are there any identifiable representatives from elsewhere in the legacy media, CBS, ABC, NBC, PBS? Is there anyone from any of those networks that you recognise that you can see in the audience?
You know, Russ, I'm going to mute myself, and I'm going to do a lap and look at those mic flags for you and see if I can see anyone, and I'll come right back to you in a minute.
Sure. I think the key thing here is really what's the traction that we're going to get from this press conference. I mean, it's fantastic. James has put some of his own money on the line here, a considerable amount of money, a considerable amount of work. He needs support. This case matters. It really matters because, frankly, if people are going to ignore first-hand evidence, witnesses who say they are prepared to testify, they're prepared to give first-hand evidence, then, frankly, we might as well pack up and go home. We're told, by the way, that this press conference is going to get underway shortly. They're a little bit delayed, but frankly, I think this is going to be the big test today. Will something come up?
We're getting close. Where's Lisa? Yes. Can I hand this off to you?
Okay, so sometime in the next few minutes, we will see the beginning of the Varginha, Brazil press conference presented by James Fox, the award-winning filmmaker responsible for fantastic films Moment of Contact and The Phenomenon. And this press conference is all about the work that he's done to investigate the Varginha, Brazil case. In 1996, literally on this day, in 1996, witnesses in or near the town of Varginha, Brazil, saw a craft, a non-human craft, crash land on farmland near the town of Varginha. In the course of the following days, multiple witnesses, including local military police and local civilians, saw beings. One was recovered by a police officer, and the people who conducted an autopsy on that police officer, two pathologists who were responsible for finding out what killed that police officer, are going to be testifying today. And perhaps most dramatically, one of the other witnesses is a doctor who was present in the hospital when the being, one of these beings, was brought in and offered medical treatment. And the doctor gives quite extraordinary evidence. I've seen a preview of what he's about to reveal today. He gives quite extraordinary evidence, first-hand evidence, of not only tending to and seeing this being, clearly non-human, clearly a humanoid-shaped being, but clearly non-human, and he testifies that this being communicated with him telepathically. What's the news from the floor, Megan?
Okay, so I just did a lap. I want to make sure you guys can hear me okay. So I just did a lap. There are a lot of media outlets here. Nobody has my data on my flag, so I'm not sure who anybody is with. Everyone's kind of got their heads down, trying to figure out some technical issues that are going on. So it seems very busy back there. But I do not know if there are any legacy media members here, or if it's just independent journalists, podcasters, and bloggers who are interested in this topic.
Okay, it looks like they're sitting down now, so we might wait for this press conference to begin. James.
Here. Oh. Yes. Okay. Hello.
Ítalo.
Okay. You're here. Ítalo is there.
Ítalo.
Our sound fine. We are ready to go. Let me just check with our sound person. Do a mic check. Tell them to go in 1 minute.
I just heard him say 1 minute, guys.
So tell me here.
Spell out.
Here, after Mateus. So here, so Brazilian Senator.
So this event is going out live around the world from Washington, D.C.
Literally fell over the crowd. Hi everyone. We're pulling ourselves together here. I think we're just threading up the laces at the last minute. I was told there was going to be about 10 people here. They lied. I'm Karin. I'm going to host the event today, MC. I can tell you, as someone who's an introvert by nature, it normally takes me a few minutes to warm up into speaking, so bear with me. I think at the moment, if we're ready to go, we're ready. Where's James? We started without him. Oh, no, you're there. Okay. All right, so first of all, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you. We know, first of all, yes, let's do that. Let's wake up. Thank you. Some people came a very long way to be with us today. Some people got on flights early this morning. Some people drove for many hours in a car. So for everyone who didn't get enough sleep last night or is jet lagged, Thank you for your sacrifices. We're very, very happy that you're here with us today. So my job right now is just like an airline flight attendant to tell you where the emergency exits are and how this is going to go. So the first thing is that we are going to read some written statements today. And I know cue collective eye roll, but we're just doing that to set the table. All right, so it'll take us about an hour to move through all of them. The good news is we all read pretty well, so it shouldn't be too torturous. And after the hour is over, we might run a little bit longer than that. We're going to take a 15-minute break, let everyone have a bio break or move around, move your body. Then we'll bring you back in for Q&A. The Q&A will go for an hour as long as it needs to. And then we can be here together until 5 o'clock. So we don't have to feel anxious about the amount of time that we have. We can be chill about it, and we want everybody to have a chance to come up ultimately and meet the presenters here. So know that you'll have plenty of time to do that. What else am I going to say? I think I just did it all. The QR codes. So that was, we weren't quite sure when to do that. Rumor had it QR codes were on the wall, but they're all right. And so the QR codes are for the videos. Is that right?
Yes, to download the materials.
All right. So she just said it. So we have QR codes on the wall if you want to download the videos later. All right. We good? Everybody else okay? Yes, we're ready for this? All right. James, you ready?
Ready.
Let's make it happen. Yes? All right. All right. So I'm Karin Austin. I'm the managing director at the John Mack Institute and the Center for the Impossible at Rice University. Together with founder Dr. Jeffrey Kreipel and Amanda Foke, head of special collections at the Woodson Research Center, we are spearheading a large-scale metadata research initiative to better understand the patterns of human experience related to the phenomenon. Today, though, I'm here in service to this with all my heart and love and support. It's a pleasure and an honor to be with you. So, with that said, to not bury the lead, this conference addresses the existence of non-human biologics, defined as biological specimens or bodies of a technologically advanced non-human intelligence. The first-hand witnesses here with us today will describe their personal encounters with live, advanced non-human beings that were discovered in the immediate aftermath of a UFO crash outside Virginia, Brazil in 1996. What happened in Virginia is a part of a larger story, one that has accelerated dramatically here in the United States following the 2017 New York Times article that brought renewed attention to military encounters with unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UAP. Since then, Congress has held 4 open hearings on UAP, an unprecedented step, while the Department of Defense has released congressionally mandated reports from its UAP task force. Bipartisan legislation has established new oversight and reporting pathways, with additional measures still in development. Members of Congress are pressing for greater transparency and whistleblower protections, while highly credible intelligence and defense insiders, many testifying under oath, have reported on deeply classified programs tasked with the recovery of crashed UAP and the preservation of biologics held within ultra-secret legacy programs. In light of this momentum, the public's right to know becomes central. Evidence that we are not alone should not be classified. Confirmation of the existence of life beyond Earth, I think we all agree, belongs to every human being. And with that, I'd like to introduce Kirk to help us understand, Kirk McConnell, to help us understand what's been happening behind the scenes to bring this ecosystem of secrecy under congressional oversight. We are honored to welcome Kirk McConnell.
Hi. I served for 37 years on the staff of the Senate Armed Services Committee, the Senate Intelligence Committee, and the House Intelligence Committee, retiring from government service almost 2 years ago. I was among the staff from the Senate Armed Services Committee and the Senate Intelligence Committee who collaboratively investigated the UAP issue on behalf of the senators from both parties on both committees after the seminal articles from the New York Times in 2017 that Karin mentioned and that I'm sure all of you are aware of. As extraordinary as the claims sound of the witnesses that you will be hearing from today about a crash retrieval and the recovery of non-human beings from Virginia in 1996, behind the scenes, similar reports have reached senators and staff conducting the investigation that I referred to. Many of you in attendance today or tuning in to this event are familiar with the public statements of now Secretary of State and National Security Advisor Marco Rubio, who has been very outspoken on this matter. As Vice Chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee, he clearly conveyed how seriously he takes these allegations. He and other senators held meetings and interviews in so-called sensitive compartmented intelligence facilities, SCIFs, over a period of years with very credible sources reporting both direct and secondhand knowledge of the reality of highly intelligent non-human beings. Government retrievals and reverse engineering of craft not made by human beings, and the recovery of bodies of non-human beings. These reports alleged hidden government activities like those you will hear about today, stretching across many decades. What these folks are going to tell you today in person and remotely are astounding, but they're not the only credible testimony about such events. Thank you.
Kirk is actually going to be back later to provide some closing remarks for us. I should also make a note here, we're potentially expecting Representative Burleson. Is that true?
Yes, he said he's coming.
Okay, so there may be a moment where everything pauses and we hiccup and we bring Burleson on stage. So just bear with us if that happens, and hopefully it will. Anyway, thank you, Kirk. We look forward to hearing your closing remarks. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Jacques Vallée, remotely. Unable to attend the event in person, he generously agreed to record a statement for us. Jacques is a renowned scientific investigator, cultural icon in this field, and one of its most influential thinkers.
Good afternoon. My name is Jacques Vallée. I'm speaking at the request of Mr. James Fox, because a few years ago I initiated a system of multiple databases used by a DIA-sponsored program at Bigelow Aerospace as a cleared member of the scientific team charged with the study of UFO, UAP phenomena. The data warehouse system contained data about 260,000 screened reports of anomalous objects in flight and hundreds of reports of creatures, live or dead, associated with crashed or landed vehicles of unknown provenance, including some similar to those in Virginia, thus providing useful multinational and historical context. My current research is taking us to deeper levels with new on-site analytical and physical research on historical cases, such as the 1945 case in San Antonio, New Mexico, the 1964 case in Socorro, New Mexico, and the 1965 case in Valençon, in France. In those and several others, new physical and environmental data was collected. The observations involve a total of 7 creatures, generally similar in size and the general body shape to those described by the witnesses in Virginia, Brazil, and by Mr. Fox, providing both context and statistical support for current and future findings. In particular, all the creatures just mentioned breathe air normally. Beyond this, I currently serve in a private capacity on the Scientific Advisory Board of the French Government National Center for Space Studies, CNES. That unit has actively researched the UFO problem since 1975, including national cases of close encounters with the presence of occupants, a number of which I have also studied on site. It should be clear, however, that I do not represent any of these government organizations in this or any other context. The Virginia incident of 1996 in Brazil, researched and documented by James Fox, fits within cases already known in scientific and medical records, many of which have remained classified. Relaxing the classification requirements while preserving security of essential facilities such as the nuclear labs would make it possible to inform and enlist the scientific community at a higher level. Action by the executive branch to allow more open exchange would be world-changing. As the Virginia case proves, allowing more open contact at an international level would yield better understanding of the global issues. The current segmentation of the data hinders any serious research into what appears to be an extraterrestrial phenomenon empowered by advanced artificial intelligence. Open archives do exist to some extent, describing the physical and biological environment of the crafts and their occupants. Socorro and Valensol in particular, two unclassified cases officially deemed unidentified by multiple government agencies, have yielded evidence of traces, recovered materials, and environmental effects. But we know that much more is available. The Virginia case presents exceptional new knowledge beyond what was already known. It improves our information in two fundamental ways. First, in the ability to reconstruct what happened to the craft and its occupants from beginning to end. And second, in the professional description of the anatomical and behavioral features of the live creature recovered by authorities within a short time of the crash and to the point of its death. By this achievement, James' long and perilous project has opened up an entirely new field of research.
Thank you, Jacques. His perspective, of course, reminds us of the long arc of inquiry that has led us to this very moment. It's now my honor to introduce James Fox, the documentary filmmaker who spearheaded today's event. His work has consistently centered the human experience within some of the world's most provocative UAP cases. James, at 28 years old, completed and sold his first documentary on the UFO subject to Discovery Communications. Over the years, through films like Out of the Blue, I Know What I Saw, The Phenomenon, The Program, and Moment of Contact, he has consistently centered the human experience with some of the world's most provocative cases. James' most recent work, Moment of Contact, New Revelations, returns to the 1996 Virginia, Brazil event. often described as one of the most compelling crash retrieval cases involving multiple live non-human beings of advanced intelligence. For over 2 decades, he and his team have chased down the facts and witnesses to the incident. He has been deeply committed to documenting their accounts with respect and to preserve their voices for future generations. Ladies and gentlemen, James Fox.
Thank you, Karin. And welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. And it was a colossal undertaking to get these gentlemen from Brazil here. But I say I had to walk on water and move mountains, that would be a huge understatement. So thank you, everyone, for being here and for all your efforts. Just informed that Congressman Burleson has just arrived. I don't know how long he's going to stay with us, but I'm hoping there he is. Welcome, Congressman. Thank you so much. Yeah. We also have a sitting member of the Senate, Senator Geraldo from Brazil, who's standing here. Can you stand up, please? Yep, he's here. Yeah. So we will be introducing Congressman Burleson. Would you like to give a quick statement now, or would you like to wait till a little bit later? Come on up, please. I'll finish mine afterwards. Excellent. Thank you so much, Congressman.
Extraordinary.
So my work is taking me around the world investigating some extraordinary allegations of UFO encounters, now referred to as UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomena. But what brings us here together today is what I consider, and many others, the most compelling case in modern history. In January 1996, in Varginha, Brazil, numerous witnesses reported a cigar-shaped object in distress, which ultimately crashed in a field, Maiolini Farm, just outside the city of Varginha, Brazil. Several days later, on January 20th, 3 girls outside the city, ages 14, 16, and 21, came within a few steps of an otherworldly creature cowering in broad daylight against a wall in a vacant lot. Over time, it was revealed that the Brazilian Fire Department and military police captured 2 non-human beings on that same day. According to multiple Brazilian government officials, the crash debris and non-human beings, likely one still living, were flown out of Brazil within days by U.S. Air Force and presumably remain in the possession of a secret U.S. government classified research program. More and more witnesses are coming forward because courage is infectious and there's strength in numbers. This investigation is far from over. We are encouraging a coalition between officials from the U.S. and Brazil to acquire additional records, including potential video and photographic evidence of this case. I believe in this case because this could settle the debate once and for all that we're not alone. I'm very grateful to our Brazilian witnesses taking the time to come all this way to be here with us today. As I said earlier, we had to move mountains and walk on water. The Brazilian statements will be translated by Aline Class, who's right here across, and co-produced a new cut of Moment of Contact and was instrumental in making this conference happen. Thank you, Aline. I'm going to mention Carlos de Souza, who's here as well, who was initial crash witness. We took years to track him down. Yeah. He gave one brief statement in 1996 to a researcher named Claudio Covo, and then he vanished for the better part of 26 years. And I remember we were going to include a segment in the Phenomenon, a film I did. And at the end of the day, we were like, we got to find more witnesses we scrapped the whole idea and ended up making a movie. We found him, and a year or 2 later, we got him to come forward and share his story. One of the earliest civilian witnesses to the events surrounding the Varginha crash. He's a former businessman, a longtime geography teacher, and an experienced ultralight pilot. Carlos made one public statement, as I said earlier, and then he vanished. So we're very grateful to have Carlos here with us today. Carlos, please.
Check. Check, 1, 2, check.
Bom dia, senhoras e senhores. Grande prazer estar falando hoje com vocês.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure to speak with you today.
Me perdoe pouco o nervosismo que o filme passa na minha cabeça nesse instante da minha vida inteira.
Forgive me, I'm a bit nervous. This movie of the scene just plays in my head all the time.
Eu testemunhei a queda de uma nave não terrestre no ano de 1996, no dia 13 de janeiro.
I witnessed the crash of a non-terrestrial craft on January 13th, 1996.
Eu viajava de São Paulo para a cidade de Três Corações. E durante esse percurso, eu parei rapidamente no acostamento e, nesse momento, ela rodovia Fernão Dias, no caso, e porque eu iria a um encontro de pilotos de ultraleve, que eu era recém-formado. Como piloto, então eu iria encontrar os amigos.
I was en route from São Paulo to the city of Três Corações via Fernão Dias Highway in Minas Gerais for an ultralight pilots gathering.
Ao fazer uma breve parada, eu avistei um objeto que para mim naquele momento está em formato de charuto, não era nada terrestre, era simplesmente um dirigível, pois na época... ok, sorry. Em formato de charuto, tá? E eu observei que ele estava em apuros.
When I made a brief stop near Varginha, I looked skyward. I spotted a cigar-shaped object which seemed distressed. Initially, I assumed it was a blimp, common at the time over soccer fields for broadcasts. It released white smoke while losing altitude.
Inicialmente, como eu já havia falado, eu pensei que fosse um dirigível. Tá? Na época era muito comum sobre os campos de futebol no Brasil, para fazer as transmissões das partidas. Só que ele saía dele uma fumaça muito branca. E ao ele fazer uma pequena curva, eu observei que na sua lateral ele tinha um rasgo da metade para trás. E ele estava rapidamente perdendo altitude.
It released white smoke while losing altitude. It made a slight turn that revealed a lateral tear from the middle to the back. It was clearly having problems.
Logo pensei, como piloto, que os ocupantes estariam em graves problemas, porque só quem é piloto sabe o desespero que dá você estar numa nave com problemas ou numa aeronave com problemas. Entrei no meu veículo rapidamente e comecei a acompanhá-lo através do para-brisa até o seu local da sua queda. Na esperança, na verdade, de ajudar quem estava lá dentro.
Only a pilot would know the difficulty of seeing a craft in trouble. So he quickly realized that the occupants could be in deep trouble. I got in my car and followed its trajectory towards the crash site, hoping to be able to help.
Ao chegar no local da queda, eu estranhei de início, porque o esperado era um cheiro de combustível, o querosene, mas havia um cheiro de amônia e ovo podre, muito diferente, que ardia muito meus olhos, queimava meus olhos. Então eu subi a camisa para poder respirar, e conseguia. Metade da nave desse objeto, tá, que no caso para mim ainda era um dirigível, estava encostado numa árvore, e a outra metade traseira eram vários destroços.
When I got there, I smelled a foul odor, like ammonia with rotten eggs, burning my eyes. Half the craft remained intact by a tree, and the debris of the back part was scattered everywhere.
Nesse momento, rapidamente, chegou vários veículos militares.
Multiple Army vehicles arrived promptly.
Nesse momento, estava meio. Eu estava no meio dos destroços, onde houve que negócio. E esses fragmentos, tá, eu levei um, baixei e peguei na minha mão. E eu observei que ele era muito leve, não tinha peso nenhum. Parecia um papel alumínio, aquelas folhas de papel alumínio bem fininhas. E amassei ele. Ao soltá-lo, o que eu tomei um susto gigantesco, ele voltou ao formato normal. Eu, meu Deus, o que é isso?
At that point, I was in the middle of the wreckage, and I picked up a lightweight fragment resembling aluminum foil. I crumpled it in my hand, but when I let go, it instantly resumed its shape.
Nesse exato momento, um soldado do exército, da ESA, se mais preciso, no Brasil, veio em minha direção com um rifle, tá? E começou a gritar, vai embora, vai embora. E no que ele deu impacto, tirou de mim esse fragmento, ok? E eu respondi para ele, não, eu não vou. Tem gente caída lá, machucada, que para mim até aquele momento não fazia sentido ser nada. Para mim era, ele vai embora, vai embora. Eu falei, não, não vou. Ele deu um passo para trás, levantou a arma, engatilhou, apontou para minha cabeça. Eu não estou pedindo, eu estou mandando, eu vou abrir a tua cabeça no meio se você não for embora.
A soldier approached fast and hit me in the chest with his rifle, so I was forced to drop the metal I was holding. He shouted, "Leave now." I replied, "No, people in there need help." He aimed his gun at my head and said, "I am not requesting, it is an order. Leave now or I'll split your skull."
Virei-me imediatamente, tremendo, morrendo de medo, sem entender nada. E estava muito assustado mesmo com tudo aquilo.
I turned and departed immediately. I was very scared and confused.
Saí do local imediatamente, que não tinha o que fazer, estava com medo, eu não entendia nada. E caminhei até um posto de gasolina, porque eu falei, vou tomar um café e me acalmar. Todo aquele negócio era demais para minha cabeça. Só. Desculpem. E para me recompor, fui ao posto tomar um café para me recompor. Em poucos minutos, uns 4 minutos, 5 minutos no máximo, chegou um carro escuro, um Opala, um carro da época, azul escuro, quase preto, com 2 homens bem vestidos, elegantes, ternos pretos, camisa branca, óculos escuros, desceram e vieram ao meu encontro. Ok.
I left the area and stopped at the first gas station to compose myself. A few minutes later, a very dark blue, near black vehicle pulled up. 2 suited men got out and approached me.
Me chamando seu nome. Ok. Um deles veio em minha direção, tá, e me chamou pelo meu nome. Falou o nome da minha esposa, o nome do negócio, para mim, apontando o dedo para mim, e perguntou. Eu perguntei para ele, falando se eu era o Carlos Souza, se eu era isso, e apontando ele para mim. Eu perguntei para ele, quem é você? Não te conheço. Ele respondeu frio e simplesmente, você não viu nada, você não sabe de nada, ou você terá sérios problemas o resto da sua vida.
One of these men approached him and called him by name, stating his address, naming wife and business, and he asked, "Who are you?" And this man threatened, "You saw nothing, you know nothing, or you will have problems for the rest of your life."
Partiram rapidamente. Nesse momento, eu peguei um papel aqui, guardanapo, limpar a boca, com uma caneta, para anotar a placa do veículo. Porque, para mim, quem eram aquelas pessoas para falarem aquilo? Só que ao chegar na porta do estabelecimento que eu estava tomando café, quem falou que o carro tinha placa? Não havia placa no veículo. Eles simplesmente partiram.
They departed swiftly. I grabbed a napkin to write down the license plate, but there wasn't one.
Imploro a todos os presentes aqui, após 30 anos, ridicularizado, julgado pela sociedade, não nos abandone novamente. Permitam que a verdade venha à tona. Tenham coragem de falar a verdade para nós. Eu não sou louco. Ninguém é louco aqui. Tenho família, com qualquer um. Por favor, falem a verdade. Aquele que sabe, as autoridades. Só peço isso. Obrigado.
I implore the authorities and people present, after 30 years of ridicule and societal judgment, do not abandon us again. Allow the truth to emerge. Summon the courage to disclose it. Thank you very much.
That's a very, very powerful speech. It's quite profound to hear someone speaking so directly about a first-hand evidence like that.
I want to say that I want to say that we tracked him down, specifically my team, Marco Leal in Brazil, and begged and pleaded with him to come forward after a silence of 26 years. He's never asked for a dime. He's not trying to sell anything. Like, wow. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Carlos. We have colossal effort to get 6 additional first-hand witnesses here. In fact, we hired an immigration lawyer. We reached out to Congressman Burleson's office. He was very happy to help implement getting their visas approved. He was working diligently, his office. He put it on one of his best people. And unfortunately, 6 visas were denied. So we rushed back just a couple of weeks ago, Alini and myself, covert mission, went back to Brazil with the help of the local government and got access to an official building with a podium and flags. And we recorded statements from all those that had their visas denied. So that's the story behind why we're presenting it. They wanted to be here in person. They tried everything to be here in person. We worked on it for the better part of 9 months. And again, I'll remind you, the QR code allows you to download free of access, use it anywhere you want, right there by the doors. There's another one by those doors. It'll give you full access to all the videos you're about to see. And I ask you to please spread them far and wide. They're all yours, they're everybody's. So we're gonna, without further ado, we're gonna show you 6 additional statements from first-hand witnesses right now that were unable to be here. Thank you.
Eu juro que o que eu vou dizer é simplesmente a verdade e nada mais do que a verdade. Meu nome é Fábio Furtado e em janeiro de 1996, eu e meu amigo que estávamos na fazenda que trabalhávamos em Três Corações, vimos um objeto voador não identificado. Um objeto que não era normal para a época, uma coisa que a gente nunca tinha visto. Ele fez movimentos sem nenhum tipo de curva, subiu e desceu, fez um Z no ar e desceu atrás do morro, na frente da nossa fazenda que nós morávamos e trabalhávamos em 96. O objeto ele era cilíndrico, era do tamanho mais ou menos do micro-ônibus, e o movimento que ele fez no ar, eu nunca vi se repetir isso, nem nos dias atuais, nas aeronaves mais tecnológicas que nós temos hoje. Aquele objeto fez um pouso, e no dia seguinte, eu fui lá para conferir, e vi um amarelado no chão. Ali eu tive aquela certeza, percepção, que aquele objeto não era desse mundo.
Eu juro que eu vou dizer aqui agora é a verdade, somente a verdade. Meu nome é Liliane Silva, tenho 46 anos, sou professora na educação infantil. No sábado 20 de janeiro de 1996, a mais ou menos às 3h20, eu, Valquíria e a Kátia, ao cortar caminho, vindo do trabalho, observei no muro uma pichação, onde embaixo dessa pichação de uma trave de futebol, eu avistei uma criatura, estatura baixa, com os olhos vermelhos, a pele marrom, como se tivesse passado um óleo, umas veias que saíam do pescoço até o braço, né? E quando que eu avistei ali, eu tive uma sensação, assim, terrível, como se o mundo tivesse parado. Foram minutos, mais minutos, assim, que passou um filme na minha vida. Na hora que eu gritei para avisar as meninas, olha ali, a criatura olhou para mim, eu olhei nos olhos dela e passou uma sensação que ela estivesse sofrendo, que ela estivesse pedindo ajuda, se escondendo de alguém ali. E assim, aqueles minutinhos que eu fixei nos olhos dela, eu entrei em pânico, não sabia o que eu fazia, só falei assim, gente, vamos correr, e comecei a correr na frente delas, né, em sentido da minha casa. As meninas olharam para ela e teve a mesma impressão, cada um viu alguma coisa, mas assim, apavorada, saímos correndo no sentido da minha casa.
Juro dizer a verdade, nada além da verdade. Sou Kátia Xavier, uma das 3 testemunhas do caso Varginha. Eu estive a 2 metros de uma criatura. Foi dia 20 de janeiro de 1996. Eu, Liliane e Valquíria estávamos juntos, passando nesse terreno. Estivemos cara a cara, praticamente, com uma coisa muito estranha, um extraterrestre. E assim, ele me passou muito medo. Ele era marrom, dos olhos vermelhos, com a pele oleosa, uma cabeça grande, com 3 dedos na mão, um pé grande. E aquilo mudou muito a minha vida, transformou a minha vida. Me passava que estava sofrendo naquele lugar, que pedia ajuda para mim. Eu não conseguia me mexer, olhando para ele e tentando pegar alguma coisa a mais. Então, eu já ia para a direção dele, tipo assim, eu vou ajudar ele, né? Não pensei assim, em consequência. Eu vou ajudar essa criatura, essa pessoa. Quando eu fui para tomar essa atitude, a Liliane voltou, pegou no meu braço e me puxou. Foi aonde eu me desliguei completamente. Mas aí já não era mais aquela Kátia. Era totalmente diferente. Por quê? Porque, assim, me transformou. Me deixou, assim, com sequelas de que, poxa, por que não fiz algo? Poxa, por que pegaram ele? Por eu ter falado, pegaram ele, fizeram o que fizeram com ele. Então, isso ficou marcado em mim. Porque eu sinto essa criatura junto comigo a todo momento, aonde eu vou. Então, sempre vou dizer a minha verdade. Em janeiro faz 30 anos a história. E eu nunca mudei nenhuma sílaba e nunca vou mudar. Porque essa é a minha verdade.
Eu juro que o que eu vou contar agora é verdade, nada mais que a verdade. Eu me chamo Valquíria, sou uma das testemunhas do dia 20 de janeiro de 1996, onde estava eu, a minha irmã Liliane e a nossa amiga Kátia, quando estávamos indo embora do trabalho e avistamos uma criatura. Uma criatura diferente, que nós não sabemos o que era, mas era assustadora. Quando eu olhei para os olhos dela, eu senti que ela estava com muito medo. Da mesma forma que a gente ficou assustada, ela também ficou apavorada. Foi o que ela passou no olhar para a gente. E marrom, de olhos vermelhos, tinha brilho no corpo, como se tivesse passado óleo. E aquele dia marcou a nossa vida para sempre.
Today I want to show you guys where to get Azure kelp in Hightail. So let's go. So the best way to do this is to go to one of these blue zones. And just go to the ponds and pick up the Azure kelp. It's easy as that. Best to come at nighttime so you can see them glowing. It's very easy to find them because there's 2 or 3 different things that glow in here that are blue, and you're just looking for the kelp itself. So usually what I do is I just get into the water. Now I usually try and find a blue area that has a nice big river. This one is a little bit more isolated than the one that I would normally go for. And yeah, just swim along the river and look for the azure plants. Now, we just came out of this one, so there is a river over there. Let's see how many I get from that one. So this is the kind of river I'm talking about. We're just going to grab that one and go for a swim along it. And I bet you I'm going to end up with like tons of these.
Ser lá, eu recebi na minha casa 4 homens que eu nunca tinha visto na minha vida. Era 4 homens vestidos de preto e eles foi só entrando e foi fazendo uma proposta para mim. Se eu aceitasse aquele dinheiro, abriu a mala na minha frente, disse que a gente ia ficar milionário pro resto da vida. Um dinheiro esquisito, eu nunca tinha visto na minha vida. Era uma maleta assim, nessa altura. Inês abri, que abriu, os outros só olhavam. Que eu tenho a impressão que eles não falavam a nossa língua. Só um que falava. E falou que era muito dinheiro, que a gente ia ficar rica, que eu tinha que ir embora daqui. Mas eles queriam que eu ia se eu aceitasse, que era para mim ir numa emissora, numa TV, reunir as meninas e mentiram. Que, por exemplo, um exemplo que ele deu, que as meninas viam um bezerro, um cachorro doente, um ser humano doente. Eu fiquei muito assustada com isso, achei que isso não era digno. E aí pedi para eles ir embora dali. Fiquei com muito medo deles, sim. Então eu acho que eu não poderia mentir uma coisa desse jeito se eu não cheguei a ver. Agora, mentir que as meninas não viram nada, isso aí também já é demais. É só isso que eu tenho que falar.
Eu juro que o que eu vou dizer é a acepção mais correta da verdade. É a verdade dos fatos. Meu nome é Nier Nadeia, eu sou jornalista, sou diretor da TV Princesa, onde já trabalho desde aquela época. Em janeiro de 1996, no dia 20, eu estava trabalhando e logo que saí, fiquei sabendo do avistamento na cidade. Eu fui averiguar esse avistamento, fui impedido pelos soldados da ESA, né, que não deixaram que eu subisse até o local, porque por ser da cidade, eu sei onde as coisas acontecem. Eu queria ver. Parei o carro, desci, queria ir a pé, disseram que eu não poderia passar. Eu questionei por quê, assunto de segurança nacional. Oh, mas e a minha liberdade de ir e vir? Vocês têm que ficar. Pois bem, isso aconteceu. Depois, no domingo, tiveram pessoas que fizeram avistamento. Eu estive no hospital regional, porque fiquei sabendo que lá havia uma movimentação. Vi os médicos em polvorosa, mas não soube o quê. E o mais importante que eu esqueci de dizer, naquele momento em que eu estava próximo ao local dos fatos, eu ouvia barulho de gente na mata, como se estivesse correndo, e 2 frases me marcaram. Cerca, cerca. O outro respondia, é liso, é liso. Essas coisas ficaram na minha mente por um bom tempo. Mandei 2 jornalistas para uma entrevista coletiva que teria na ESA para eles tentarem colocar panos quentes, dizer que, não, era apenas um exercício militar, era caminhão que estava arrumando. E eu já instruí os meus repórteres, pergunta exatamente sobre isso, sobre o que aconteceu, mas seja incisivo. A resposta que eles tiveram foi, se vocês insistirem nesse assunto, vocês vão ser presos. Então, quer dizer, para mim, havia um processo de acobertamento e que, aliás, perdura até hoje, por enquanto. Que muita gente, como eu, tem relatos iguais a esse, mas que ainda hoje tem medo de dar a cara a tapa e de falar o que aconteceu.
Eu juro que eu vou dizer a verdade, a pura verdade. Sou militar do Exército da época de 1996, onde ocorreu um fato de Varginha. Participei no transporte e também na visualização do ser extraterrestre. onde eu fiz o transporte, mas primeiramente, antes de transportar esse C, eu entrei na porta, na segunda porta do hospital, onde avistei um C, e posteriormente veio relatos de que era simplesmente um extraterrestre. Com isso, eu fiz o transporte dele de Varginha para Três Corações, de Três Corações para Campinas, onde deixei a viatura e outros militares assumiram. E, posteriormente, retornando para Três Corações, houve relato que os americanos teriam já a posse desse ser, transportando ele para um local ignorado, um local que eu não sei.
Wow, this is compelling
Ninguém
stuff.
fala a verdade, somente a verdade. Meu nome é Marta, sou irmã do militar Marco Elixerez, que em 96 veio a óbito e participou da captura do ET. Meu irmão tinha 23 anos na época, era militar da P2. Falo com convicção que muitas das pessoas levam o caso para ser fantástico, e não é. É um caso muito sério. Realmente, meu irmão participou da captura do ET e veio a óbito. A causa indefinida, até hoje indefinida. Mas a gente vai esclarecer isso, custe o que custar. Passe o tempo que passar, nada fica encoberto. Mas eu gostaria que as pessoas que soubessem um pouco mais, que viessem se pronunciassem, mas desde que dizendo a verdade. Eu perdi uma parte na qual não vou ser restaurada nunca mais. Eu queria que o governo, as autoridades falassem o que realmente aconteceu no dia, o porquê que se escondem, né? Eu sei que pode existir pessoas que não vão entender, mas eu acredito que muitas das pessoas, a maioria, irá entender esse caso sim. Estou aqui esperando uma resposta da sociedade, da população, quem sabe de algum militar que queira falar. Hoje eu aguardo. E vamos torcer para que as pessoas que venham até nós venham com contundência, venham com firmeza, com declaração explícita, simplesmente, se por mais dura que seja a verdade, que ela seja dita.
Why hide it? Why hide it indeed? That's very compelling evidence. James has done some fantastic
It
work.
almost feels like we should just take a moment of silence. That's a lot. I think we can all hear and feel that everyone here and here is telling the truth to the best of their ability from their heart. As I regain my composure here, our next Brazilian witness brings an essential perspective to one of the most difficult and still unresolved aspects of the Varginha case, the sudden and tragic death of a healthy 23-year-old military police officer, Marco Xerez, who, with the help of fellow officer Eric Lopes, captured one of the live beings with his bare hands. Within weeks, he developed a severe bacterial infection that would ultimately prove fatal. Dr. Armando, the forensic specialist who conducted Xerez's autopsy, is a highly respected physician with a law degree who works primarily in forensic medicine. Over more than 3 decades with the Minas Gerais Civil Police, he served as a forensic pathologist, criminal medical examiner, and critical medical examiner. I'm seeing in some of my notes here that I finished at 3 a.m. The obvious results that I was finishing at 3 a.m. He also served as the president of the Medical Association and Municipal Secretary of Health in Varginha. He is here with us today to discuss his knowledge of the case. Dr. Armando.
Bom dia. Declaro que estou dizendo a verdade e que não tenho nenhum conflito de interesses pessoais ou de outra natureza.
Good day. I hereby state that I am telling the truth and that I have no conflict of interest, personal or otherwise.
Fui designado para realizar autópsia no corpo